Good morning. Am I catching up? There we go. Oops. I'd like to welcome everyone to Missouri S&T. And I would like to welcome everyone to today's Board of Curators meeting, including those who are joining us on live stream. As a courtesy to those joining us via the live stream, I ask everyone to please bring your mic in close when you're speaking. I'd like to ask Curator Holloway to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Behind us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Give you that back. Good morning. I want to thank Chancellor Degani for hosting us. I would also like to acknowledge that the Honorable Lyda Cruson is with us. She is the Curator Designee announced this past Friday by Governor Parson for Congressional District 1. Welcome, Lyda. We thank Curator Burnsick for exceptional volunteer service to the board itself, as well as to the University of Missouri system. She will continue to serve until the University of Missouri Senate confirms her replacement. Earlier this morning, we held the groundbreaking event for the Engineering Research Lab here at S&T. What an exciting time it is to be here in Rolla. There is always something new happening at this university, and that excitement extends to the specialized programs offered at S&T as well. 2 weeks ago, I got to walk through the Kennedy Experimental Mine Building alongside U.S. Senator Schmidt, Curators Singfield and Holloway, Chancellor Degani, as well as esteemed faculty from ceramic engineering, mining and explosive engineering, geosciences, geological and petroleum engineering, and materials science and engineering departments. We were impressed both with the facility, the faculty, and what S&T offers both our students and the state of Missouri. The tour and presentations made it crystal clear how unique S&T is. No other university in the state and nation is quite like Missouri S&T. The unique combination of degrees and experiential learning opportunities offered on campus ensures S&T graduates are well equipped for careers in their chosen fields. It's also clear that this university has claimed its place as a tech hub in Missouri. And S&T continues to garner national attention through research, materials development, and outstanding educational programs. I know that Chancellor Degani and the university and system leadership are as proud of this university as we are. We are excited to see what is next, and make no mistake, he already has lots more plans. So now I want to move on to recognizing our award recipients from S&T. First, we have our S&T Remington Awards recipient. As a reminder, these awards are given to UM system students who embody the qualities of our late student representative to the board, being an involved leader, an advocate for the student experience, and affecting positive change at their university. S&T's recipient of this honor is Martin De La Hunt. Martin, if you would please come forward. Here with me. Martin is a drum major in the Miners Marching Band and served as Vice President of Operations for the Student Council. He's a computer engineering student with an incredible academic record. Martin's peers speak highly of his dedication to leaving this university better than he found it by optimizing processes that help students achieve more. His nomination packet said, his enthusiasm for his degree and for S&T is abundant. He is a warm, energizing presence among his fellow students. Congratulations, Martin. You have you put this on. Chancellor Degani, do you want to join us?
Yes.
Please.
Thank
I should have thought it. Do we have enough space or do we need to move?
We'll make it work.
Make it work? Okay, thank you.
Actually, if you slide over that way, just
Better?
Oh, yeah, don't step on your glasses.
I know, that would be a bummer.
There you go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Great, thank you.
Congratulations. Martin? Now we have the honor of recognizing 2 Curators Distinguished Professors and 1 Curators Distinguished Teaching Professor today. These professors are recognized for contributing to the growth of their respective fields and their outstanding scholarship over the course of their careers and during their time at S&T. While not able to be present this morning, it's my honor to begin by recognizing Dr. Baojun Bai. Dr. Bai is the Lester Burbick Endowed Chair of Petroleum Engineering and has been a faculty member at S&T since 2006. He has been a principal or co-principal investigator on 10 external projects with a combined budget of $10 million in his time at S&T. Dr. Bai has delivered more than 150 presentations at national and international conferences. He is the creator of a technology that is now considered a standard for his industry. We congratulate Dr. Bai. In person, we have Dr. Jag Sagaranapani. If you'd like to come on up. Dr. Saragapani is the William A. Rutledge Emerson Electric Company Distinguished Professor and has been with S&T since 2001. Join me. His research focuses on learning, adaptation, and neural networks. He has delivered 30 keynote talks in international conferences, and this is a long title, and is on the editorial board of the Institution of Electrical and Electronics Engineers Transactions on Neural Networks and Learning Systems. In 2021, Dr. Saragapani was awarded with the University of Missouri President's Award for Sustained Career Excellence. He is a fellow of 5 academies, you can see the screen, including the National Academy of Inventors. Congratulations, Dr. Saragapani.
Great, thank you.
We're going to do a picture of both of them together, cohort picture. Okay, so if you will hold, that will be great. Thank you. Okay, our Curators Distinguished Teaching Professor is Irina Ivlevyeva. Dr. Ivlevyeva is a professor of Russian and joined S&T in 1997. She was named the Missouri S&T Woman of the Year in 2012. Her research interests include Russian word formation synthesis, comparative semantics, linguistic data visualization, and mentoring in higher education. She has received multiple outstanding teaching awards from S&T. She has served on the university's campus curriculum committee and is a faculty evaluator for the annual undergraduate research conference. Congratulations, Dr. Ivlevyeva. That's a good idea. This way?
Yep.
Okay.
And get it nice and close together.
Get closer.
Find some focus here. Great, thank
We
you.
want to have Dr. Saragapani join us to do a cohort picture, if you would. And I'll have, I think this is powerful. You get it, Mom.
Nice and close. There we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to both. As you all know, for each meeting, the board wanted to focus on one critical element important to our work. In February, that was healthcare, and our chancellors will continue to show how their universities deliver upon that critical part of our mission. For today's meeting, we plan to discuss the evolving landscape of higher education and specifically the impacts of AI, artificial intelligence, on campuses and in research. This technology has been at the forefront of many conversations over the past several months. Today, we invited Dr. Don Wunsch and Dr. Casey Canfield to share specific initiatives here at S&T in the area of AI. Additionally, each of our 4 universities are finding ways to adapt and grow with AI in mind with innovative research in the works. At UMKC, engineering professor Zhuzhong Chen developed the first civil engineering AI course at UMKC. He's leading the adoption of this technology in the classroom beyond the UMKC campus as a founding chair member of the American Society of Professional Engineers National Committee dedicated to incorporating AI into civil engineering classes. At UMSL, Assistant Professor Vivek Singh is researching applications of automated machine learning and generative artificial intelligence in business. He's been collaborating with a local financial technology company, FinLocker. He is exploring the challenges FinLocker is facing as it tries to implement AI in the financial services platform they created to improve the financial fitness of its consumers. At Mizzou, College of Education and Human Development Assistant Professor Noah Glazer is using AI and virtual reality to help people with autism complete real-world tasks. Ching Gao, a doctoral student at the NextGen Center for Influenza and Emerging Infectious Diseases under Curators Distinguished Professor Henry Wan, is using AI to develop an algorithm that will help flu vaccine producers create new vaccines more quickly. And Dr. Kent Shannon, co-director of Extension for Digital Agriculture Research and Extension Center, is leading a collaboration between CAFNR, MU Extension, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture Research Services on a new AI project for Missouri farmers. AI can be used to identify weeds, diseases, nutrient deficiencies, in a crop, as well as provide insights into more efficient use of materials like fertilizer, saving farmers time and money. As you can see, there is very innovative work taking place system-wide focused on AI. This work will allow us to further our research enterprise and understand how AI is integrated into higher education. Beyond AI, we encourage our administrators and board members to continuously ask ourselves how we can take the university system forward, how we set the pace, and how we compete in the dynamic landscape of higher education. As I've noted in past meetings, our university system has great momentum, and there's an exciting energy right now at all of our campuses. Whether it's record enrollments and graduation rates, new degree programs, a renewed focus on research, enhancements around athletics, new facilities, or facility upgrades, we are focused on continuous improvement in every area of the system. This momentum allows us to focus on the future and set a high bar that is aspirational but also achievable. Together, the board and university leadership, expertly led by President Choi, are forging new paths forward to bring the university system to a place where Missouri has not gone before. Through thoughtful planning, we are also making necessary investments to capitalize on this momentum, and we are excited about the opportunities that lay ahead for the University of Missouri system. Thank you. President Choi, I turn it over for your report. There he is behind me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Winokur, and it's great to be here. And also, thank you for recognizing the success of our students and our faculty at this university. We are so proud of the progress made under Chancellor Degani's leadership, and we know that it's going to continue. Let me begin by sharing with you some exciting news about the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. Those 8 students that you see are the winners this year. This is the most important graduate fellowship in the United States. Those students below the line are those that received honorable mention. There are only 4,000 students that either get the award or are in the honorable mention. Our universities are doing extremely well. Just to give you an insight of how this works, Lori Augusto, that you see up there, studied biological sciences at University of Central Florida as an undergraduate, but she applied for a graduate position at Mizzou. So she's going to be transferring the grant from UCF to the University of Missouri. Just below, you see Jacob Search. He studied mechanical engineering at Mizzou, and he's going to be doing his PhD at Duke University. This is a tremendous accomplishment, but the chancellors are not satisfied with just having, 14. We want more, and we know that we have excellent students that can compete at the highest level. I want to thank the admissions managers as well as the vice chancellors for enrollment management at all 4 universities. I want to begin with them. Kim Humphrey at Mizzou, please stand. Doug Swink at UMKC, David Spivey at S&T. Reggie Hill could not be here, but I understand that there is a member representing UMSL. Maybe not. They're out getting more students, which is great. And all of the team from admissions at Missouri S&T, if you can stand, please stand. Your work has been phenomenal. Look at all the green that we see. At Mizzou, we see a 17% increase in the number of freshmen that are going to be joining the university. UMKC 4%, here at S&T 12%, at UMSO 5%. Your hard work during this past year has been incredible. Keep up the great work, and I can't wait to see what you do next year. We're counting, so thank you. All right, thank you. We also had to deal with the FAFSA matter that has caused delays in financial aid. But our directors of financial aid, and I believe they are here, maybe they're not here, Emily Hainham at Mizzou, Bridget Betts at S&T. Bridget, please stand. Scott Young at UMKC, and Mitchell Hess at UMSO. They've navigated through this entire period by essentially, at times, holding the hands of parents and students as they navigate FAFSA. And the fact that our acceptances are as high as they are is really a testament to your hard work. So please, thank all of your staff when you go back to your campuses. Thank you. And for those members that are very interested in online learning, this shows the online learning enrollment by headcount over the past 6 years. There's been some drop off, and that is caused because of the real high demand that occurred during the pandemic. But this is headcount. And when we look at the revenues that are generated, you can see that the revenues are increasing at Mizzou and UMSO. At S&T, I know that Chancellor Degani has put a renewed focus on the team and really challenging them to develop the online courses that can attract more engineering and science and engineering management students at the university. But these are positive trends. These provide additional revenues for the university to invest in academic excellence. In terms of faculty success, you can see up there Professor Michael Murray, who has since retired, has received the Broadcast Foundation Lifetime Achievement Award in Scholarship. Professor Clancy Martin, who was a Kirkus Award finalist, received the Jefferson Award from the University of Missouri System. And John Middleton, who works closely with me, received the Award of Excellence from the National Mastitis Council. And we have with us Professor Rui Bo, who received one of the most important awards at the National Science Foundation. Professor Rui Bo is here, and I believe Professor John Middleton is here. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Keep up the great work. And we also learned recently that one of our postdocs at Mizzou received the Guggenheim Fellowship, which is one of the highest awards, highly prestigious awards, given to those in academia. In terms of research expenditures, you could see from this slide that the three universities' research is going up. At UMSO, it's a little bit flat, but UMSO's contribution to sponsor program can be better reflected in the next slide, which shows a significant increase over the past 6 years. This is something that we measure on a monthly basis, fiscal year to date, to see how we are doing. This is truly impressive progress. And earlier today, we learned from Professor Kamal that the awards received by Missouri S&T increased from $21 million to over $60 million. And by the way, we're not done with the year yet. We still have 3 more months. So tremendous work by the faculty and great leadership. While I'm showing you numbers, they really comprise of individual contributions. Professor Billow received a $3 million project to educate current and future workforce in key technologies, whether it's advanced materials, critical minerals, as well as semiconductors. And he received this from the Department of Labor, which is not an organization that we typically apply for research grants, but now we have an entree into this very important funding source. Next, Professor Philip Whiteside, a emeritus faculty member, and his colleague received $2.5 million to develop sustainable aviation fuels that can be created from, let's say, soybean oil or waste oil, And the interesting part of the sustainable aviation fuel is that it produces 50% less greenhouse gases. And the US Department of Energy has set a target of going 100% SAF by 2050. It's an ambitious goal, but this is where the future is headed, and Missouri S&T is right at that future. Professor Susan Reno from the School of Journalism and the Office of Research received a $9 million center grant. This is her second center grant. And Mizzou continues to be the preeminent NSF center for broader impacts, how to take the value of research in various areas and translate that into useful benefit to society. And this really ties in well with our land grant mission at the university. Professor Jorge Gutierrez received $2 million from NIH to be able to use synthetic biology, which is using engineering principles to be able to develop or modify biological processes using genome sequencing as well as DNA modifications using CRISPR to develop new types of probiotics that are more effective as contrast agents for diagnostic imaging. Professor Shi-Yu Chen, a professor of surgery, has developed a very novel approach of developing the type of understanding of aortic aneurysm, which affects 3 million people just in the US alone. So our faculty members are contributing in so many ways to precision health. At UMKC, Professor Michael Abel is leading a number of projects working closely with our strong partner, DESE, in developing Childhood Innovation Center, and the training is focused on bringing better awareness of financial management, human resources, IT, so that the early childhood centers can be more effective and more profitable that benefits the communities in which they serve. Last but not least, Professor Sonia Bahar is working on geospatial technology. Her grant is from Ohio State, which came from NGA, and she is studying geomatics. This is a term that I just learned, which is the collection, analysis, and interpretation of data related to the surface. And this is in close collaboration with the Taylor Geospatial Institute as well as NGA, and is really placing UMSO at the forefront of research and education in geospatial space. I believe that's the end of my presentation. Curator Winokur, any questions or comments from the board?
Thank you, President Choi. Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. We now have an action item to approve the 2025 Board of Curators meeting calendar as presented in your materials. Are there any questions regarding the calendar? If none, may I have a motion and a second from the board to approve the 2025 meeting schedule?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Next, we have the consent agenda. Are there any questions from the board regarding the consent agenda items? Okay. Hearing none, may I have a motion and a second from the board to approve the consent agenda as presented in your materials?
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstention? The motion carries. Curator Graves, I now turn it over to you for the Finance Committee meeting.
All right, good morning. The Finance Committee has 2 information items and 2 action items today. First item, Executive Vice President Ryan Rapp will provide an update on the fiscal year 2025 budget planning. Ryan.
Thank you, Curator Graves. Today, we're going to review where we expect FY24 to end and the key assumptions for the fiscal year 25 budget that'll be presented for approval in June. I just want to remind everyone, we run on a July 1 to June 30 fiscal year. So when I'm referencing fiscal year 25, I'm talking about July 1 of 24 to June 30 of 25. For fiscal year 24, which will end at June 30 of 2024, it is projected to end positive, but it will be less than we planned. We had an extensive discussion at the Health Affairs Committee about this. One of the primary drivers is healthcare. It's still projecting to end the year on a positive margin, but we are facing kind of some of the same headwinds that the rest of the industry is, with labor cost, coupled with additional capital investments that were necessary, but it's created some financial pressure for us, and we understand that we have to address that as we plan for fiscal year 25. And MU Healthcare currently has a financial improvement plan underway, and really over the next 2 years is going to be focused on improving its position. When we look to the academic core, our budgets remain healthy, and the leading indicators that the president went over for the fall remain strong. I want to spend a little bit of time on this chart, and this is really focusing on what we refer to as the colors of money. And the dollars that we received aren't all created equally. If you go to the far right, those are the most constrained. So those are the sponsored funding we receive, either they're research grants, public service. And as you move to the left, we receive gifts. Those have restrictions. It also captures what our endowment distribution is, but those are restricted, and most of our endowments either go towards professorships or scholarships. Then as you move to the yellow column, you're really looking there at our, what we call our auxiliary operations, and you can see it's the largest of all the line items on our budget, and that's largely driven by the fact that it's comprised of our health system. Then as you move to the left, far left, and the green dollars, those are the least constrained. That's where our net tuition and fees are, where our state appropriations come in, and that's really the core operations of the academic mission of the university. Just to give some context, I think as you look at this chart, you can see it's about 27% is in the operating bucket, and then as you move to the right, you've got 56% in the auxiliaries. Just to give some context, if we look at this by university and you count MU Health and MU, the total budget, about 80% of that is at MU. You've got about 10% at UMKC, and then a little over 5% is at UMSL and S&T, and then the system is just 1% of the overall budget. I think, the president talked about what we're looking in terms of FTC, first-time college students coming in. This is just taking a look at what enrollment, so we're looking at total FTEs, not FTC, looks like, and this is looking back to fall of 2018. So that's really looking at the fiscal year 19 compared to where we will be in fiscal year, where we came in fall of 23, which would have been fiscal year 24. And I think, while we've certainly seen some decline, they've been muted compared to some of the other four-year institutions that you look in the state. I think, I'd encourage you to take a read through the materials. I think Northwest Missouri State and MU were the only institutions over that period of time that experienced positive enrollment. And so while we have lost some enrollment over that time period at some of our institutions, we've lost less than others. I think, with the leading indicators we're seeing for the fall of 24, the University of Missouri, across all four of our institutions, is well positioned as we move into this next year to maintain. I think we'll maintain our overall enrollment. So you have to keep in mind, while we may see improvement in that first-time class, if we have a larger class that's graduating, that can still drive down the enrollments. The other thing I wanted to give some context to is the governor's budget, and I know it's still being worked through the legislature, had a 3% core increase, which would bring our state appropriation to just around $500 million. I know this chart's hard to see, but I think it's always important, and it's overall the state's budget is now about $52 billion, and that's grown significantly over the last couple of years. And then when we look at the general revenue, which is primarily funded by personal income tax, you're looking at a budget of almost $15 billion. for years, we were running around 10 billion, and that's really jumped up over the last couple of years. And then they have what they view as their discretionary budget, which is 3.8 billion. And higher education is included in that budget. And I think it's just always important to remember that of that 3.8, higher education is 34% of that, and we make up almost 500 million of that, or said differently, of that discretionary budget. Our institutions represent 13% of that. I think, the one thing as we move in to fiscal year 25 and we're thinking about it, and we think about what we saw in terms of the state's budget, and we think about what we're seeing in terms of enrollment, I think we can count on steady enrollment. I also think, though, as we look forward, we can count on solid state support, but I don't think we're going to experience the growth levels that we saw over the pandemic. And I think that'll both impact our operating budget and capital budget. We've experienced capital budgets that have really been underwritten by government support that we haven't seen before. And so I think as we move forward, philanthropy and our ability to generate our own resources for capital investments will be critical. Maintaining our enrollments will be important as we move forward. The other thing is we are planning on performance-based wage increases across all of the 4 universities. Right now, those are in the 2 to 3% range, and will be finalized as we set tuition in May and and the state's budget is finalized. But I want to be clear, when we talk about a performance-based wage increase, that is not across the board. It's not an inflationary increase. It means that funding's available, and it will be awarded based on merit and performance, and possibly to address some market needs, but it doesn't mean that everyone will get a 2% or a 3% increase. It will be spread. Typically, if we're looking at pools like that, you're going to have people receiving anywhere from 0 to 10% increases. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the assumptions going into our fiscal year 25 budget and what we're doing as we prepare for the June budget presentation.
Yeah, Ryan, and more of a statement than a question. We've talked about this, but we've experienced a number of years of unprecedented state funding for capital projects. And we as a university we as 4 universities are now entering into a period where that funding's going to be more constrained. And so we need to make sure that we're planning well ahead and not overextending ourselves on our budgets, because, we could enter a time period where there's a downturn in money.
Yeah, I think that's just a comment. I think you're absolutely right, and I think we have to think about it both in terms of capital and our operating budget. And I'm not projecting that, hey, we're going to have a crisis, but scarcity, resources aren't unlimited, and I think that it's been a great thing for us, and we've been able to take advantage of it. But the amount of government support that we received kind of coming out of COVID isn't going to be sustained as we go forward.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Ryan, it seems like a lot of the private universities have declining enrollment, maybe even, at a steeper decline. Do you see us having any benefit there? Any of our universities picking up some of that?
Yeah, I think, in the materials we showed, I think it's a 19% decline in terms of students, not at our institution, but high school graduating students. I do think that was part of what I was trying to get at is I think our universities are particularly well positioned. I'm not saying we're going to see massive enrollment growth, but because of the quality and the brands that we carry, I think on some level, as you see other institutions, you haven't seen any private universities close in Missouri, but you certainly have in some of the surrounding states, like Iowa Wesleyan closed for the last year. Okay, fine. Yeah, so you are seeing the pressure at some of these private institutions, but I think we are well positioned to lead through this.
Right. I just have a comment on your colors of money and the auxiliary services. Healthcare is such a big portion of what we do. I think it would suit me better, you guys can consider it, about separating healthcare out by itself.
Yeah.
And then let's look what the other auxiliary services are, because they're more in a bundle that makes more sense.
Yeah, we certainly can do that. And if you look at 1-8, it's trying to show the margin, not the total amount. That is looking at those auxiliaries without the hospitals included. Now, it has university physicians still included in that number.
Ryan, off the top of your head, what's the out of the money that we spend, what's the approximate percentage of that that's student tuition?
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, that might have been an unfair.
No, I've got it, so I want to just make sure I'm
I want it
exactly right.
to the dollar, not.
I hear you. Our net tuition and fees is about $735 million.
So that's really important, enrollment's really important.
Enrollment's really important. The state support is also equally important. I always say, you may say, well, that's not as much as we get in state support and we get more in healthcare revenue, but, to replace that state support, we'd have to have about a $12 billion unrestricted endowment. I'm not talking about a restricted endowment, so they're both equally important.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, if there's no further discussion, let's move to our next information item. Rob Cancer from Janney Scott Montgomery, the university's financial advisor, and University Treasurer Kevin Hogg will provide a debt and credit update.
Morning, and thank you for having me. Here's the clicker. So as with previous years, we wanted to just walk through a quick update on both the debt portfolio and the credit rating of the University of Missouri system, and just highlight some things that may have changed in the past year, as well as the outlook for the future. So starting with this slide, as far as the debt portfolio goes, no real significant changes in the past year. There was no new issuance, and regular pay down of debt as scheduled. So really, nothing materially changed there. Total debt outstanding of about $1.6 billion, predominantly fixed rate. So in terms of predictability of cost, both principal and interest, it's very well known. And as far as the credit ratings go, AA1 from Moody's with a stable outlook, AA plus from S&P with a stable outlook. Those were both affirmed in December of 2023, so no change to the ratings. And again, those are among the highest ratings of public institutions out there. And we'll go into more detail on that later, but that is the second highest rating in the Moody's and S&P universe. As far as the outlook for the future for the debt portfolio, there are discussions about a potential new issuance of debt in fiscal 25, which will be possibly later this calendar year. Primarily to fund the Women and Children's Hospital, estimated amount of about up to $240 million. That project has to date been funded by central bank balances, so it would essentially be a reimbursement, at least of partially the cost of the project. And then, as we talk about issuing new debt, we think it's prudent anytime you're considering coming to market to look at the existing portfolio to see if there's any opportunities to reduce cost and refinance existing debt, similar to if you had a mortgage and you looked at interest rates when you locked in your mortgage versus where they are now, it makes sense to take a look and see if there's opportunities to reduce cost. This slide, just a reminder, this is the financing team that works with the Treasurer's Office for the system. You'll see there's several investment banks. Those folks are involved when the system is coming to market with a debt issue. There's also a legal team, both in terms of bond counsel and disclosure counsel. And then Janney serves as financial advisor, which, as a reminder, we are a fiduciary to the system, so we work hand in hand with the Treasurer's Office on all things related to debt and credit. Any questions before I move on?
Yeah, what is our average cost of money right now?
I think
That we have, not if we went to the market.
the weighted average cost of capital in the existing portfolio, I think it's around 3.5%, if I remember correctly. Yeah, around 3.5%. Any other questions?
What was that number? I'm sorry.
Sorry, 3.5%. Okay. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about the debt portfolio as it stands today, as well as what may be coming on the horizon. This slide is just a series-by-series look at the outstanding debt. Again, nothing materially has changed during fiscal 23, other than the regular scheduled pay down of principal. A couple of things I would note. In the interim, since June 30th, 2023, there's been a couple of changes. The healthcare, let me get the name correctly here, but the health facilities revenue bonds were defeased. Those were related to Capital Region Medical Center debt. And then in addition, there were, if you'll see at the bottom of the slide, there are 3 interest rate swaps listed there. 2 of them have since been terminated. So the system is left with 1 swap that hedges the 2007B variable rate bonds. Okay. As far as looking forward, as I mentioned before, the system's contemplating a potential financing in early fiscal '25 that would include up to $240 million of new capital for the Women and Children's Hospital project, as well as the CRMC integration. All of these were temporarily funded or financed with central bank balances, so again, it would be reimbursing some of that money that was spent on those projects. In addition, we're currently looking at a refinancing of the Series 2014A bonds, which are callable beginning later this year on November 1st. There's also an analysis going on the 2009A and 2010A Build America bonds, and that's something we're looking at as well as many other universities are. In all cases, I think, as it comes to specifically on the refinancings, obviously we're going to look at the opportunity to save money there and make sure that there's significant savings there in order to move forward with anything on that front. Any questions on the debt portfolio before I move on to credit? As far as the credit profile of the institution or the system, just as a reminder, again, AA1 stable from Moody's, AA plus stable from S&P, again, both affirmed with no changes in December of 2023. I think, it's interesting when we talk about the ratings of the system. Other institutions may have different sort of organization in terms of with their healthcare system and things like that. For the University of Missouri system, you are rated as a whole system, so that's including all of the campuses and the healthcare system all combined in one. I think the credit strengths and challenges that are listed here are largely consistent from previous reports, so obviously recognizing the important role that the system plays in the state, both from an education, community, and healthcare perspective. The balance sheet, again, affords the system with strong financial resources and flexibility. The agencies also, of course, focus on operating performance and affordability as they think about debt as well. From a challenges standpoint, not surprisingly, student demand challenges, particularly based on demographics and just competitive pressures in the market. I don't think this is anything terribly new or different from the last time we've talked, and we've talked about enrollment here this morning in various ways. And so, of course, that's critical to the success of the system, both educationally and financially. And then, I think the other thing that the agencies focus on in terms of challenges, of course, financial leverage. They do look at the pension liability as well, even though that technically sits with the state, but as a public institution, the pension liability as it relates to the system is part of the leverage in terms of what they're measuring here. So I've covered a lot of these points, but I'll just go through them quickly. In terms of the rating reports, they talk about factors that are positive for the system and could lead to upward pressure on the rating, positive pressure, if that's a word, as well as factors that could cause a decline in the rating. These are all things we've talked about this morning in terms of the role in the state, the solid state support, diversity across revenues in terms of, student-driven fees, research, healthcare, largely a mix here as opposed to some of these smaller institutions that were referenced before that are largely tuition-driven and therefore susceptible to pressure in that area. And then the agencies also give a lot of credence to management, governance, and the ability to have strong financial policy and strategy moving forward, and that's been a strength of the system. As far as the commentary around what could cause a decline in the ratings in the future, not surprisingly, it's looking at weaker operating performance, largely driven by declines in enrollment or weaker demand for students. I think when you look at downgrades that occur for universities, it's usually not a blip or something that happens overnight. It's usually a progressive trend, and so that's what we kind of look for when we're preparing for rating meetings and talking to them about some of the challenges faced by higher education. And then, as I referenced before, we look at where the University of Missouri sits in terms of credit ratings, and you'll see the system is one of 14 institutions out of a universe rated by Moody's that's approximately 250. That falls in the AA1 category. That is the second highest. That's a very important and powerful message to the market in terms of when you're coming to market to issue debt, and so that helps in keeping that cost of debt affordable, so to speak. As we think about new debt in the future, we're looking at both balance sheet and the ability to afford the debt service. So affordability is a huge part of this, and the ability to generate operating cash flow to cover that debt is a key piece of this as we look forward. With that, I will pause and see if there are any questions. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the action items. First item is 5-year capital plans for MU Healthcare, Missouri S&T, Kansas City, and St. Louis. Executive Vice President Ryan Rapp will present the 5-year capital plans for those entities.
Thank you, Curator Graves. I'll go pretty quickly through this. There's details included in your materials. Just as a reminder, on capital planning, this is just trying to give you an idea of we have these rolling 5-year capital plans, and then it highlights where the board is engaged in those. One of the things, and I know I'm going to sound repetitive, but we have experienced record capital investment from government support, both at the state and federal levels. I think as we look forward, and you're going to see this probably represented in some of the plans, we know this won't be sustained, and our ability to fund capital projects as we move forward will largely be driven by our ability to raise money through philanthropy and internal resources generated by each of our universities. So when I do want to be clear, there are the projects that we have worked into our 5-year financial plans that we update every fall, and then there are strategic projects, the strategic project development plan, and those are projects that each university is planning to move forward with, but there's work to do to still build out a plan of finance around those projects. So if you have a question on what the difference is related to those, I'm happy to answer any questions you have on the capital planning process before I briefly go through each of the university's plans. Okay. So for MU, what's included in the plan of finance currently is and these are not new to the plan. They were included in the plan that was approved in September. The Center for Energy Innovation, Next Gen MER Phase 1, which is the design work that we need to do, the MER lab expansion, a possible radioisotope facility at Discovery Ridge that would be funded by the DOE and perhaps state support. There's an electrical interconnection and substation project, and then the decommissioning and mitigation of Pickard Hall. We did remove Ellis Library, the Student Experience Center, from the plan. And really, as we were looking at that project, we decided there might be more efficient ways for us to address that through other space at the university. The strategic development plan, it's got some new projects that are included. One is the Memorial Stadium Improvement Project, the Animal Resource Center, and Vivarium Facility expansion, which would be grant funded, possibly looking at fitting out the 4th floor Innovation tower, and then a couple of the new swine research facility. Additionally, we're continuing to look, at some point, we are going to have to deal with some of the exterior of Jesse Hall as well. There were 4 projects, I won't go through each of those, that were removed from this strategic project development plan. When we go to MU Healthcare, they talked about this at the Health Affairs Committee, but looking at some point, a 3rd floor surgery fit out in the new children's tower, and we'll continue to work on that project. And then additionally, they've got one new project on their strategic project development plan. It's a 93, estimated currently to be a 93 project. It would be around campus consolidation and inpatient services. For UMKC, these projects aren't new to the plan. On their capital plan, they have a $25 million building for KCUR that would be funded solely by gifts. We've got looking at a new athletic arena, along with a performing arts center and a new science and engineering and research building. We did remove Spencer Chemistry from this, along with the student housing project and the Troost project. I think for Troost, we evaluated it, and I think if anything, we're trying to figure out how we might demolish that building in the future. For S&T, we don't have any. I think part of it is we've got a lot of projects going on here, and there's no projects currently in the finance plan, but there are other projects they're working on. You can see those here. I won't read through each of these individually. For OMSL, they continue to move forward with their campus consolidation plan, and the utility plant project is part of that at a $15 million project. And then they've got the Stadler Hall renovation at $38.5 million that's included in their strategic project development plan. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions related to the updated capital plans.
Any questions? If there's no further discussion, may I have a motion and a second from the committee to approve the 5-year capital plans for MU Healthcare, Missouri S&T, UMKC, and UMSL as outlined in the materials for this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor on the committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Chair, on behalf of the Finance Committee, we move to recommend to the full board that the 5-year capital plans for MU Healthcare, Missouri S&T, UMKC, and UMSL as outlined in the materials for this meeting be approved.
Thank you. A motion is made. Do I have a second from the board?
Second.
Thank you, Curator Lehman. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
All right, Executive Vice President Rapp will present the MU Research Reactor Lab Expansion Plan now.
Thank you, Curator Graves. I think we previously discussed this project. It's a $34 million project that will be funded by reserves from MER in addition to revenue from third-party contracts. Really what we're looking to do here is quickly add some new hot cell lines to continue to ramp up production within the facility, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just a statement, this continues to be a real bright spot right now for, on the horizon for us that we're working on, and we certainly appreciate the partnerships we have with industry and the opportunity we have. Any other questions or comments? All right, there's no further discussion. May I have a motion and a second from the committee to approve the MU Research Reactor Lab expansion as outlined in the materials for the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor on the committee signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay? All right, Madam Chair, on behalf of the Finance Committee, we move to recommend to the full board that the MU Research Reactor Lab expansion outlined in the materials for this meeting be approved.
A motion is made. Do I have a second from the board?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, this concludes the business of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Curator Graves, and to CFO Rapp and his team as well. Thank you. Curator Fry, I now turn it over to you for the Governance, Compensation, and Human Resources Committee meeting.
Good morning, all, and I want to offer my thanks for S&T hosting us. It's been a wonderful, wonderful meeting. The Governance, Compensation, and Human Resources Committee has one information item today. The UM System Annual Benefits Report was provided in your board materials for your review. Vice President Marcia Fisher will highlight some areas of the report and be available for questions.
Thank you, Curator Fry. The University of Missouri offers a variety of market competitive benefits, including choice of health plans and retirement plans, depending on the date of hire. I'll highlight for you on pages 1 and 2 of your report, there's descriptions of those plans. The annual benefit reports also highlights trends, costs, and contributions for 2023. And I'll point out just a few of those, but are of course more detail in the report. In 2023, the medical plan saw a 2% decrease in medical claims per member. This was primarily due to reduction in catastrophic claims. Catastrophic claims account for about 24% of total spend, and the top contributor is cancer and chemotherapy diagnosis. Pharmaceutical plan did see a 15.9% increase in claims per member per month, and this is largely because of an increase in cost of prescriptions as well as increased utilization. Moving to the retirement plans, I'd like to highlight for you a program that the board approved in April of 2023 and give you an update. You'll recall that we offered a terminated vested buyout programs for those employees who had terminated their employment prior to April of 2023. This did not impact current employees or retirees. And during the election period of October to December of 2023, we offered an enhanced lump sum. Approximately 18% chose to participate in this plan, which had a result of a reduction of total liability to the pension plan of $70 million and a reduction of the unfunded liability by $10 million. So I appreciated the board's support in that plan. Each year, we do an actuary evaluation study of the pension plan, and that's included in Appendix D of your report, and that will show that the plan's actuarial funding ratio is 77.1%. And I'd also like to highlight in the appendix, you can find the premiums, design changes, and the 3-year roadmap for the health plan, retirement, and other programs. Those are in Appendix A, B, and C. And finally, before offering to answer questions, I just wanted to highlight the Total Rewards Advisory Committee that's made up of faculty, staff, and retirees who partner closely with us in reviewing our plans and helping us make decisions, and really value their input and their voice. And I don't know, do I have any track members in the meeting? If you'll stand. I see one, thank you. And any of those that are listening, I just want to show our appreciation. It does take time and commitment, but it makes it better, and we appreciate it. And finally, Jessica Baker, AVP, I think is here, if you could wave. Just wanted to highlight what good work she does in this space and how much we appreciate her leadership. So with that, more details in the written materials, but any questions that I can answer for you.
$70 million off our balance sheet, that's good news. That was supposed to be the first step in a multi-step process, perhaps to buy out some of that pension liability. What's the next step?
So we have in our 3-year plan to continue to evaluate some options that might be available, and some of that's kind of still in the preliminary studies.
Well, I, for one, would like to get past the preliminary studies on that and start moving forward on some of those. We've been talking about it for a couple of years now, and I know there are difficulties and I know there are challenges, but I'd like to start thinking about how we overcome those challenges.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Chair Winokur, that concludes the business of the Governance, Compensation, and Human Resources Committee.
Thank you, Curator Fry. Curator Singfield, I now turn it over to you for the Academic, Student Affairs, Research, and Economic Development Committee meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. This morning, the committee has one information item, the Intercollegiate Athletics Annual Report from S&T. Additional, we have two action items, a request to approve the new Missouri S&T Strategic Plan, and second, a resolution for executive session. So let's start with the first one. We will begin with S&T's athletic report. Athletic Director Melissa Ringhausen has joined us this morning. Oh, there she is. Okay, to walk us through the S&T's athletic programs and to answer questions. Melissa, you may begin.
Thank you. So thank you. Good morning, everybody. And it's nice to have the opportunity to come in and speak about minor athletics. It's always a great opportunity for us. But just to run through some general information about our program. We have 17 sports. It is comprised of 7 female sports and 10 male sports, with men's volleyball being one of our most recent additions. They are just finishing up their second season of that sport being added. We're obviously an NCAA Division II university, and we are very proud members of the Great Lakes Valley Conference, very reputable conference in the nation. So so in preparing this, it's 2022-23 information, obviously, and we're almost a full year ahead of that, or behind that, I guess. But we had 450 student athletes in 2022-23, and that was it's been, up until now, it's been about a 16% growth in our student athlete population. So we're always talking about how to grow enrollment and what we can do to do that, and that's one of our areas that we tend to focus on in that particular topic. I also oversee club sports, intramurals, and recreation as well, and so we're always looking at those opportunities, how we can enhance our enrollment through the university, of connecting our students, getting them involved, getting them to become a part of a team, all those kinds of things to help grow enrollment and to retain our students. From an academic standpoint, always exciting to talk about. I've put the last 2 years on this particular slide. Our student athletes are tremendously strong students on campus. They are some of your brightest students on campus. They're very engaged. Academics is their number one priority. It is why they chose S&T. If you ask a majority of them, it's because of the quality of education and what they receive here. But our women's sports in 2022-23 averaged a 3.656. Our men were a 3.401, with an average with our department as a 3.53. And I think that's really, really impressive GPAs from our student athletes. What goes along with that is in the spring of 2023, I think just some really cool fun facts. We had 117 student athletes that had a 4.0 in the spring. And for that academic year, as a cum GPA for their entire year here, we still had 50 student athletes that were on a 4.0. So very impressive grades and success in the classroom. Moving on, our graduation rates continue to exceed our general student body, not an uncommon trend with student athletes at many institutions. But the academic success rate in Division II, and I always just try to give some information on that, what that is. The academic success rate is generally more what Division II looks at, because that is all of your student athletes, your cohort freshmen, regardless of if they receive scholarship money or not, athletic scholarship money. And, we stack aid to create competitive packages, and we do have student athletes that compete and do very well for us that receive very competitive packages, financial aid packages, and they may not have an athletic scholarship on that. And so with the academic success rate, that's often what we look at versus graduation rate. But both will exceed our student body, and we're very proud of that. With our GPA, I think another thing I wanted to note, just for you guys to know, is our student athletes, 73% of our student athletes are engineering or computing majors, and another 22% are information technology, math, or lab sciences. So adding those together, 95% of our student athletes are some type of STEM major. And so these GPAs and what they're doing in the classroom, they are challenging themselves. They're here to get a great degree because they know it's going to open up doors for them when they graduate and leave. Academic awards, I show this just to show the trend. Our students continue to excel. They continue to get better. We continue to have more honorees for the various academic awards that they're eligible through our conference regionally and nationally. And you can look from 21-22, in every category, we essentially improved and got better. And that continues to be the trend. Even into this year, we're seeing that. So again, just the commitment that they have to both areas of their life, academics and the athletic side of stuff. I would also like to highlight our diversity. Student athletes, one great thing about student athletes is it brings another area of diversity to your campus community. We represent 19 countries, different countries throughout our athletic department. And we do a lot with, in 2022, we received a grant from the NCAA to create a diversity and inclusion committee in athletics. We comprise that committee with different individuals around campus to make sure that our student athletes do feel included, that they do come to a welcoming environment, that we are trying to meet their needs so that their experience is a great experience. And as we know, that creates another educational opportunity for us to put people around people there that are different than them. And so we're really proud of that. We tend to see them in men's soccer, swimming, and golf, have quite a few internationals on them, but we see them across our board in all of our programs. I also think it's important to note that we recruit nationwide. We are not a Midwest recruiting staff. Our staff go all over the country to find the best and brightest students and athletes that are going to help improve our teams. Athletic awards, we tend to go in the same trend there. We're seeing more student athletes receive honors that are available to them, and so I think the programs are headed in a great direction. We're making progress with many of them, but you can see from the numbers there that we are continuing to improve and do well with our student athletes. Some of our special highlights, it was difficult to pull out just a few because I know we're limited on time, but these were some of the special ones that in 2022-23 we celebrated. Our men's basketball team hadn't had a winning season since 1996-97. They were 16-12, so we were super proud about that. They continued that. They've had another great season this year, so we are definitely headed in a good direction there. Our men's golf program finished 8th in the nation after the first day at the national championship. They were actually first, so they definitely are competing. And again, they are doing very, very well this year. So it's not a one-time thing. It is something that we're continuing to find some stability or some consistency with. Men's track and field won another GLVC championship. They've won that 4 out of the last 5 years in outdoor track and field. So again, another great success for them. Men's volleyball had their inaugural season. Women's basketball, again, just a program that had struggled over the years, made the conference tournament, finished with a winning record as well. Hadn't seen that since 2012-13. And then women's volleyball, they just had a unique student athlete that received an award that you rarely ever see, Player of the Week on both offensive and defense. And that's just a really unusual thing, so we really celebrated that. 2 awards that we received, the Joseph McGowan Award. These are conference awards, so competing against all of our peer institutions for exemplary opportunities for our student athletes to be developed. And we just came off of it. We did the same, a very similar program this week. But our alumni come back and they engage with our student athletes, share their experiences, an outstanding event for them. And it was recognized by our conference office. We got awarded at a banquet and got to give a presentation on it. So it was a nice, a very nice award for us to be recognized for. And then the James Spalding Sportsmanship Award. This is the first time S&T had ever received that. Again, just another conference award. Great sportsmanship from all of our teams throughout the semester or throughout the year competing. So very proud of both of those. We continue to host alumni events. One thing I wanted to highlight in the financials is we are seeing an increase in donations and gifts to our department, and I think a lot of that has to do with just engaging our alumni, and these are just some of the pictures that we took, so more just a visual than anything. But that's going to be really important to the future, as we all know, fundraising and how do we get our alumni to continue to be engaged. Game day environment, again, this is something that is very important to our institution for retention, finding ways to connect students. Yes, we want to win games. Yes, we want to graduate our student athletes, but we also want to be an impact on campus. And so identifying ways that we can do that. And these pictures, they're not staged. They're not just that one moment where, oh, we have a good picture, let's take it and we'll post it everywhere. We have very good engagement from our students, and it's something that we have been really working on over the last 3 years. We also partner with many of our other academic programs like Mars Rover. They flipped the coin for us in one football game. We had the Baja car take our team out on the field this last homecoming. Super cool. Something that I hope we can continue to do. But it's about partnering with other organizations on campus to create that camaraderie, and hopefully students will feel welcomed and they'll want to stay and they'll build friendships. Again, just trying to address that retention that we're all trying to do a better job at. The one thing I didn't put in here that I did want to just share is just the challenges that we are struggling with, that all higher education athletic programs are struggling with, and just to continue to make all of you aware about. One is the student athlete becoming employees of an institution. That is a big one. That will be a death sentence for many small colleges. And so we continue to battle that one in Congress. The other one is NLI, and just getting more control on NLI. Again, larger universities, the SEC, the big times, yes, there might be some very good things, but how is that trickling down to institutions like us? So the NLI, and then the portal. The portal is the other one that we're watching, and that's going to change athletics. You know, having the dynasty teams or the same players on a team for year after year, creating those kinds of teams and athletic experiences, those are going to change. We're going to see teams changing from year to year, and coaches having to recruit even harder than what they do now. So, you know, we're working through that, and we're monitoring it as far as here at S&T and the impact it has on us. So those are our highlights. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you for the report. So are there any questions from the committee or member of the board? I actually have one. On the graduation rate, how are you going to handle students moving to another university? It's not like they can't say they didn't graduate because they went somewhere else to do that.
So graduation rates are impacted if a student leaves your institution eligible, it doesn't go against your graduation rate.
If they go to another.
If they go to another institution, yes, and they leave yours eligible.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good. 'Cause
Which is generally the
otherwise,
case.
that would be a bad
Yes.
thing to have a bad graduation rate because you lost that, you know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would just comment, I really enjoyed this last season, watching on social media. You had lots of highlights, lots of really marquee games, and obviously we're particularly interested when you all play UMSL, so that was always, I watched that carefully to see who came up on top, depending upon the team, so.
And I think we've had a number of curators that have attended games here at S&T. Thank you for coming and joining us, and if anybody ever wants to come, reach out to me. We'll take good care of you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. What percentage of your athletes receive athletic scholarships?
Oh, I don't know that one off the top of my head. I apologize.
It's all right.
But I am happy to, I can get that back to you.
I'm just curious what kind of support they get, you know, and they go ahead and if some of them get support, some of them don't, and they still continue want to, follow their dreams.
Absolutely, and even with that percentage, if I were able to get it to you, sometimes a student athlete will get $1,000 and some are getting $15,000, so.
It's quite limited with some sport, yes, I understand.
Yes, yeah. So.
I don't know if this still exists, but on St. Patrick's Day, do you still have your boxing and wrestling going on, or is that no longer here?
So those are more through student involvement. I'm not sure if those are still going on.
The chancellor is, I think, nodding no.
No more.
Not in the traditional sense.
Okay. Thank you, Mo.
I believe you should just plead the fifth.
Our teams try to schedule on the road during St. Pat's Week, just so you know. So, any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay. Next, we will review and consider for approval the Missouri University of Science and Technology's new strategic plan. I spent a lovely long time reading that report and talking with Dr. Potts, but Dr. Colin Potts is the Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at S&T, is here to provide a brief presentation and answer any questions. Dr. Potts, you may begin.
Thank you, Carita Singfield.
Hey, just back up for a second.
Yep.
This is a data freak university. Their strategic thing is, I might call, a little different than others.
Yes, if you stay here long enough, we will measure you. So thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and let me add my welcome to you to S&T. I'm going to briefly present our plan from the top to the bottom. I'll start with our North Star goals, which you will have heard of before, and I'll remind you of those. And throughout, we are emphasizing measurability and accountability, and that applies even at the top level. And then the question is, well, how do you go from aspiration to execution? How do you actually get things done? And that's, I'll describe briefly the architecture of our plan and how we put it together and how we intend to maintain it and follow it for the next 7 years. Finally, I'll walk through some parts of the plan. It's so comprehensive, and you have copies of it, that I'll give you an orientation guide rather than summarize it in any detail. So our North Star goals, at the top level, are really 3, and each of them have an operational definition in terms of measurement. In fact, we really talk about the measurable part of this as the North Star goals. We will have 12,000 students by 2030 is our goal, divided 2 to 1 undergraduates to graduate students. And we're doing this partly because of the revenue benefits. We can do great things and serve more people if we have more students coming in paying tuition. But we're also proselytizing because we have something of great value to the state for workforce development, and more students need to benefit from that. We are a research university, and our purpose is to transform society by bringing invention and discovery to human benefit. One key measure of this is to become a Carnegie R1 university, and as Dr. Kayat revealed this morning, we actually have passed that threshold using the new Carnegie measures already, and when the next classification is published at the beginning of next calendar year, we will, I think, 99.9% certain be an R1 university. But our goal is to still strive to meet some of the goals we set to ourselves when the criteria for being an R1 university were different than they are today. So we're not going to be complacent in any way about this. And finally, we are a happening place, and we need everybody to really be reminded of this or to know this nationwide. One of the key measures that parents and students use in deciding on university choices is the US News and World Report rankings. There are, of course, problems with that ranking system, but it is well known. And many universities, I think, when they're really top ranked, sometimes compromise their values in order to raise in the rankings. That's not something that we're tempted to do. We won't do it. Once we get into the top 100, our plan is to basically have climbed that ladder and to kick it away. There are other ways in which we can assess ourselves in public rankings, and as the president remarked at the groundbreaking this morning, Money Magazine, for example, rates us as the top 10 university in the country in terms of ROI. And in the, I think, the news feed that came out from communications just this morning, there was a story from Financial Advisor magazine that we were a surprising ROI. Well, it's not a surprise to us. So how do you turn these into operations? This is the architecture of the plan, and I'd like to credit Dr. Wayne Jones, who's over there, who's our Associate Vice Chancellor for Institutional Effectiveness and our Chief Institutional Research Officer, for the architecture of this plan. It goes through 4 levels. It's basically a tree of goals, which start with high-level strategic goals, and at the bottom are operations that could be performed and help people would be responsible for over a several week to few months period, things that actually get done. And so those three arrows that map from the top to the bottom really constitute the first two levels are strategic planning, and the bottom one is really more project management. So I learned an acronym the other day, which is SPOT, Strategic Plan on Top Shelf, and our strategic plan is something that we're going to keep referring to throughout its lifetime. It's not something that we wrote, we're seeking approval for, and then we'll quietly forget. It's going to affect our day-to-day decisions about prioritization, hiring decisions, budgeting decisions, and so forth. And we're going to be tracking this using Power BI, which Alicia O'Neill, our Vice Chancellor for Finance and Operations, really deserves a great deal of credit for bringing our attention to and having implemented so thoroughly. Already at the moment, I think of great value to enrollment management, but we're going to use that as a dashboard for all of the strategic plan. And that'll be somewhat similar to what the system did until a couple of years ago with Achieve It, the same sort of philosophy that we will keep track of where we stand. Okay, so here's the planning framework. There are lots of important inputs, and including from faculty leadership, Dr. Casey Dolan, who's our Faculty Senate President, and Dr. Mike Bruning, our S&T rep to IFC, were really very instrumental in bringing faculty input, not feedback, but input into this plan. I don't know if they're here. I don't think they are. But oh, Casey's there. Okay. So let me walk through the plan briefly. In each of the next few slides, one of the items is going to be highlighted. It doesn't mean it's more important than any of the others, but it's the one I'm going to expand. So I'm going to take you through a little vertical route. This is what the 8 top-level strategic focus areas are. These don't correspond one-to-one to HR divisions with one vice chancellor or senior person. There's more of a matrix structure to this, but they do correspond roughly to our major functional parts of the university. I'm going to just dive into student well-being and success as an illustration just for a couple of minutes. So the next level down are these strategy groups. These are essentially our organizing principles for things that get done for which somebody will be responsible. The first one, for example, embedding well-being into all facets of campus culture. That's operationalized, turned into actual actions in many ways. We are in the process at the moment of hiring a Vice Chancellor for Student Success who will report to the Chancellor. And the idea here is to integrate those notions of well-being that are associated with academic well-being, such as advising and tutoring, co-curricular teamwork activities, etc., with the more extracurricular activities such as the athletics that Melissa was just telling you about, or student mental health activities, because our students are single people. They don't compartmentalize their lives into different portions that are convenient for what's on our business cards. We want to put this all into one basic functional area. And by the way, our thinking about this was really helped enormously by some work that Huron Consulting did last year with us. So let me, in the interest of time, just go into the life skills and work readiness. I know one of the things that's of great interest to you is the whole idea of workforce development. So how does a student's experience academically map onto their chances in life to make a difference and plan their careers? And so this is an example of the kinds of these are the tactics we're expanding that group into. And one particular thing I just want to draw your attention to as an example is what we're calling STEM to X. STEM to career opportunities, in addition to the ones that many of our students take as their default assumption, that I'll go and work for a corporation or a small company, but they may enter one of the professions, such as medicine or the law or education. They may go into a business career. And we want to make those possibilities more apparent to our students and develop relationships with external organizations to make this more possible. Here's an illustration of how that particular
tasks can be divided. And I just want to emphasize that this particular level, the bottom level, is not in the plan because this is a living document and these are day-to-day, well, not day-to-day, these are month-to-month kind of operations. These are particular projects that we set up to achieve the goals, and they will evolve and change over the lifetime of the strategic plan. So these are illustrations, but to draw attention to the third one, for example, we are working with some external universities about early assurance programs into their medical schools, and just talking to Dean Barone yesterday, and congratulations now that your accreditation visit is behind you. We're hoping to at least have some preliminary discussions about what that would look like, about a relationship between our students, not all of whom are engineers, but most of them are, going into a medical career. But that's at the moment still in the planning stages. So that's an overview of where we are. You have the plan in detail. It's a bridge from strategy to execution. This is not a plan that we're doing just to guide ourselves, but we're going to be referring to it constantly. It stems from our North Star goals, which I think were articulated by the Chancellor when he arrived 5 years ago, and we're not changing those. The rest of the plan is a living document, but most of the churn and the evolution will occur at the lower tactical levels as we go from strategic planning to project management. We do intend, and we are committed to tracking this constantly using a dashboard to hold ourselves accountable, but also to respond to opportunities as they arrive, because changes will be necessary. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you for your report. Are there any questions from the committee or members of the board?
I have a question.
How many pages was it?
So, Professor Potts, thank you for that excellent presentation. Your research has gone up dramatically over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
And so that growth of nearly 180% is phenomenal. How will you maintain that growth using this plan?
Well, that's a very good question. I think one of the things that we have to really design is a comprehensive plan for recruiting and retaining research-oriented graduate students. And one of the keys to getting the best graduate students is to assure them stable funding. At the moment, we have very successful researchers, and we have faculty who are in a sort of startup phase. And I think that many of our graduate students are regarded, as they are, as research employees, in addition to be, or perhaps instead of being students. And we need to be able to, in my opinion, provide some degree of safety for them in the first year while they explore, or if there are transitions from one advisor to another. That's one mechanism. Another, I think, is to really integrate the thinking of the Cummer research centers, and you're going to be hearing shortly from the director of one of them, into our academic process. And so all of the opportunities that those centers provide will infuse the academic operations at the graduate level.
Very good. Chancellor DeGuy, do you have a comment?
That was a apt question. You notice that we have our protoplex up and running. The next is going to be the bioplex, and soon to come is the semiplex for semiconductor technologies, and then geoplex for geospatial. And it's all designed with the goal of highlighting the fact that research is multidisciplinary, and we are focused on bringing cohorts of researchers who can help synergistically and frankly attract large-scale grants that results into a sustained level of growth in research. Dr. Kamal Kayad, our Vice Chancellor for Research, has a wonderful plan established on how we get to that point. We certainly aren't satisfied with where we are. We must continue our growth in the research area right along with anything else that we do.
Right, well, thank you. Final answer, since we do count things, the answer to your question is there were 33 pages in the plan.
Of light reading. Thank you, Dr. Fox.
Thank you.
Okay, if there is no further discussion, may I have a motion and a second from the committee to recommend approval of the Missouri University of Science and Technology strategic plan as presented in the materials?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any questions? The motion carries. The next is Madam Chair, on behalf of the Academic Student Affairs Research and Economic Development Committee, I move to recommend to the full board that the University of Missouri University of Science and Technology strategic plan as presented be approved.
Great. Thank you. A motion is made. Do I have a second from the board?
Second.
Thank you, Curator Fry. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstention? Motion carries. Well done. It's an exciting plan.
Our last action item this morning is for an executive session of the committee. I would now entertain a motion and a second from the committee to hold a committee meeting in closed section this afternoon.
So moved. Second.
So a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Curator Blitz,
Yes.
Curator Graves,
Yes.
Curator Sinkfield,
Yes.
Curator Williams.
Yes.
You have all committee votes in favor.
Madam Chair, that concludes the public session for the Academic Student Affairs Research and Economic Development Committee.
Great. And we are 5 minutes ahead of schedule. I know you all are keen on that, so we're going to keep rolling. Curator Holloway, I turn it over to you for the Audit, Compliance, and Ethics Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first, I need to say that it is such a pleasure to come to Missouri S&T, to see the progress that you all have, and the leadership team has got great vision, and it's just a pleasure to be here, and thank you for hosting us. The Audit, Compliance, and Ethics Committee has one action item day, but we're going to start with one information item, and that information item is the Audit, Compliance, and Ethics Quarterly Report, and that's going to be given to us by Dina King. And Dina is the Chief Audit and Compliance Officer, and she had a recent significant personal thing that happened, and I'll let her explain, and welcome, Dina.
Thank you. Yeah, I got married on Saturday. So, welcome to married life. Been married for a whole 5 days.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Dina King. I'm the Interim Chief Audit and Compliance Officer for the University of Missouri System. As you know, the audit and compliance function is very important. Sometimes I liken it unto all those little wires that are inside your car that deliver information to your dashboard and tell you, oops, I need to get gas, I need to check my engine, I need to check my tires. This function gives you that information. So that's what we hope to do with the work that we do, is to help you all know what might be possibly going wrong, and that we can fix it for you if we, and make recommendations to get it fixed. Anyway, let's get moving here. Let's start with the audit function. This is a summary of the audit activity since February of 2024. We're making progress on this function. We've actually, it says we have 8 items completed. We actually have, and that shouldn't say since February 24. Sorry, that's a typo. Since July of last year. We now have 9 completed, and we're currently working on 8, and we have 13 that we're going to start here pretty soon. The investigations are moving well, and one of the things we'll be reporting on very shortly is the biannual follow-up, and I'll give you some more information on that as we move forward. So of the 2 that we completed in the last couple of months, we did some work on a program grant. The government entity, HRSA, has funded our Rural Scholars Program. And they discovered that there were some expenses that weren't quite classified the way they needed to, and so they're wanting to make sure that it hadn't made any huge errors in how they were classifying those expenses. And good news is they found out they just got kind of classified the wrong way, and primarily because their project wasn't set up right and they needed to work on some practices. So the best news is none of them were inappropriately posted or spent. So they've already implemented a new tracking system that's going to help me keep track of those program funds. Because as you know, those who give us grants are very picky about how we spend that money, so it's being spent appropriately. So management's going to continue to work on some new systems to make sure that that moves forward, and they should have that done by August of this summer. We also did an audit in MUHC of what they call surgery charge capture. And what that means is when we do surgeries in that area, we need to make sure we're capturing how we charge for that appropriately. There's a very important compliance area in the health center that's called the revenue cycle, and they're very, very picky. The regulators are very picky that we make sure that that revenue cycle is functioning properly. So they did find in this area that, for the most part, that information was being captured appropriately. They did find a few small exceptions that they're going to have already started working on fixing. So they're going to correct those little exceptions and get that fixed by next month. One of the most important things this function does is follow up. So every time we do an audit, generally, they have findings of areas that can be improved that will prevent, hopefully, things from happening again in the future. So twice a year, the team does follow-up. So they basically go back to an auditee and say, hey, here's the 3 or 4 things or 5 things that you all said you were going to do to improve your processes. Have you done them? So the good news is that of the action items that were due this period, so there were 19 altogether, 17 of those were completed. So management did take action and improve their processes so that things would work more smoothly. We did extend 2, and of the 17, 2 of those audits are now closed. So all of that management has been taken place. So just to give you a brief update on what they chose to extend, at the health system, they had 1 action item for the OCA. So the OCA, this particular area, has to do with HIPAA, and it's very important that we kind of fix some of the issues that related to HIPAA. That one has been extended slightly, so they're going to get that done by June. And a couple more action items with conflict of interest at 2 of the campuses. These are low risk. They're finally getting those processes done. In fact, some were recently completed and some will be completed very soon. So these will show up as done in the next time we do follow up with you all. In the ethics and compliance area, one of the main things we did this last couple of months is look at the program framework. So prior to December, when I came, this was the framework they were recommending we use in the compliance area. It basically had 7 areas. They were ensuring were being completed in the compliance area. Now, what I mean by framework is this is the kind of like what we just talked about with S&T. This is the strategy that we use to ensure that the dozens and dozens of compliance areas that impact this institution are addressed properly to prevent and find areas where we might be out of compliance, but goal being prevent. This is the framework they were using prior to December 2023. Over the past few months, we have kind of taken a look at this framework and we have proposed a new framework. This is the strategy, like I mentioned. The main thing you want to do in compliance is you want to prevent compliance issues from occurring in the first place. So you want to make sure you're in compliance in all these different areas. So the 5 activities on the left are the activities we propose be a framework for anyone system-wide who's doing compliance. So that would mean finance and operations and financial aid and athletics and Title IX. The list goes on. Are they doing these activities on the left? That will prevent issues from occurring. Issues do occur. People are not perfect. Things happen. But you want to make sure you have activities in place on the right-hand side to find those issues and get them fixed. These areas are the areas that government regulators care a lot about. Doesn't matter where the compliance issue is. Title IX and athletics, whatever it might be. The regulators look at this because this is what helps them know you are honestly interested in being in compliance. So this is a proposed framework we're going to propose to make sure that those compliance issues are prevented or found. This is just a pretty picture for those of you who like pretty pictures. But one of the things I point out is what's in the heart, what's in the middle, and that is leadership and culture. So leadership, you as the board, leaders of the institutions, leaders of the system, if you can support these activities, that will help prevent and find compliance issues. So one of my mentors, who is the CEO of the Health Compliance Organization and the Corporate Compliance Organization, he said one of the most fundamental things we do as compliance leaders is we prevent, we find, and we fix. Compliance also does a lot of support work. So what I mean by support work is there's about 37 areas of compliance at any higher education institution. One of the things we do is, I call it the assistant coach model. We go out and we help a compliance area get better. So we've been doing some support work with faculty search. We've been doing some support work for Clery. This one is very important. This is safety. So the Clery Act is in place to let students know that we have a safe campus. So we're currently training several campus security authorities system-wide on their responsibilities with how to ensure that we're reporting and identifying security issues. We've also assisted with some compliance subject matter trainings, and we've helped create several subject matter job aids. Everything on this list is in the prevent side. So these are issues that this team is helping to prevent compliance issues from occurring in the first place. One of the big areas of compliance is minor safety or youth protection safety. Those of you who know the history, about a dozen years ago of what happened at Penn State, this youth protection came out of those incidents, so that we need to make sure we have systems in place that will protect the minors who are on this campus. So annually, we present a report about the youth protection program. So as you can see there, we have over 11,000 youth who come to this campus to participate in these activities. We have over 1,300 people who are helping to run these programs. And we have about over 200 programs. So we have a lot of youth, a lot of programs coming to this campus that we want to make sure those youth are being protected and are safe. So there are 3 key metrics that we need to look at related to youth protection. Okay, one of them is the background check. Have the adults who are helping with these young minors and these youth, have they had a background check? The second one is, have they been trained on what they need to do to help protect these youth? And the third one is supervision ratios. And what that means is, are there enough adults to help manage the youth who are on this campus? These statistics will be reported every year. And I know there's sometimes some concern that they're maybe lower than we'd want. Ideally, we want 100%. So one of the things we've already started doing is there's a software program we're going to implement that helps us register these programs so we know who's here and who's doing what. That registration system will give us the information we need to increase these. So they'll be much closer, hopefully next year, to 100%. Privacy, as you know, there's a lot we need to do in privacy, several regulations, HIPAA, GLBA, FERPA. Nothing really new to report in privacy. That work is continuing, and we're making steps on the privacy front. That concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Dina? Any questions for Dina?
Would you just remind us, the youth protection, or the youth programs are camps, are they festivals?
Yes, camps.
Those kind of, just give us.
Yes, science labs, camps, athletics.
It's
Yeah.
not necessarily a student who comes here who happens to be under 18? I mean, that's probably very rare.
No, students under 18 who are students, they're exempt
Exempt
from
from
that
this,
count.
okay.
Yeah, it's camps, art festivals, science labs, things like that.
Thank you.
So, anything else?
Well, thank you very much for the report.
Thank you.
And we look forward to your continued success in your new position as being married.
Okay, tomorrow will be day 6.
Okay, we have one action item, excuse me? I thought you had something. The Audit, Compliance, and Ethics Committee will need to hold an executive session later today. And may I have a motion from the committee to conduct a closed session this afternoon?
So moved.
Second. So we have a second, motion and a second. Cindy, would you please call the roll?
Curator Burnsick? Yes. Curator Holloway?
Yes?
Curator Sinkfield?
Yes.
Curator Williams?
Yes.
All right, do you have all votes in favor?
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, this concludes the business of the Audit, Compliance, and Ethics Committee for a public session, and the committee will reconvene in a closed session this afternoon.
Thank you, Curator Holloway. I think if you don't mind, Curator Williams will get the health affairs, then we'll take a 5-minute break after that. Is that okay to keep rolling?
Yeah.
Okay, Curator Williams, I turn it over to you for the Health Affairs Committee report.
Thank you, Curator Winokur. The Health Affairs Committee met on Thursday, April 11th in Columbia. We had a fantastic tour of the Children's Hospital, and Dr. Barron, okay, I see him now. I was trying to hold till I saw you get up there. And Dr. Barron is here to present an update on the medical school and on our healthcare system. Dr. Barron.
Thank you, Curator Williams, and thank you, Curator Winokur. Good morning to all the curators. So before I begin my report that I had planned to give for the School of Medicine, let me just mention that we did, as Professor Potts indicated, just complete our LCME accreditation visit this week. So the LCME survey team arrived in Columbia, Missouri. Well, they arrived Sunday, but they started their work 7 a.m. Monday morning, and they were there for 3 days. And as you all know, this has been a long process to prepare for this accreditation visit, and I believe the visit was a big success. The survey team had many positive things to say about our faculty and our staff, a lot of positive things to say about our students and our facilities. They were very impressed with our education building and all the other facilities. And they also were really impressed with the hospitality that we showed them. One of the survey team members was so impressed that she said she was taking notes, and she took pictures of what we did so that when her medical school goes for their site visit next year, she wants to replicate what we did. It was a nice compliment. So I am very, very proud of the work that our team did, and I'm proud that they were so dedicated and really did a lot of hard work to get ready for this visit. We recently celebrated Match Day at the University of Missouri School of Medicine, and our graduating medical students were once again very successful in matching around the country for the residencies. We continue to do better than national averages for our match rate. And while a number of our graduating medical students do leave the state and do residencies around the country, once again, 26% of them will stay and do the residency at MU Healthcare, and 39% stay in Missouri. And we look back over the last several years, and this is a trend that's been very consistent. And we're also pleased once again to see that almost 40% of our graduates are pursuing careers in primary care, also a consistent number. So we have this really nice match day video that I would like the curators and others to see. Should I just hit the button?
3, 2, 1, you matched!
The match day experience is extremely exciting. It's definitely one of those days you don't know until you open the envelope. heading to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. It was my #1 ranked place. My fiance is going to the same place. She's at another medical school, so we're ecstatic.
I matched at UT Southwestern in Dallas. It was really important for me to have my family here with me because they've been so involved in this process. I've talked to them almost every time I've talked to them about Match, and now it's all just happening, and I'm just so excited. It's a full circle moment for sure.
The mentorship that I had here was phenomenal, and I don't think I could have done it without them.
MU's been incredible. I love this school. I love Columbia. I'm from a town close by. Every part of this journey has been incredible.
Today was honestly just a great experience. First and foremost, I matched, and second of all, I get to be at home where I love and with my family.
I'm very excited to stay here. I went here for undergrad, and I went here for medical school, and now I'm staying for another 3 years, so I'm very excited.
Thank you. That's a very nice clip, and we're extremely proud of our graduating medical students. We are pleased that 3 of our graduating students, 2 medical students and 1 PhD student, were chosen to be members of this year's class of Mizzou 18. And as many of you know, it's a very high honor for our graduating students to be in this elite group, and we're glad that the School of Medicine had a strong representation once again. Briefly, Pranav Suri is graduating from medical school, and he's going to do a radiology career, and his residency will be in interventional radiology at Wash U in St. Louis. Ishita Patel is going to Case Western in Cleveland, and she's going to train in pediatrics. And then our PhD graduate, Onakachi Akpasuo, is going to continue her research in molecular mechanisms of autoimmunity and cancer. Switching to faculty honors, Dr. Jason Fuhrer in the Department of Molecular Microbiology and Immunology received one of the Kemper Fellow Awards for his outstanding teaching. And I was pleased to join President Choi when we surprised Dr. Fuhrer by walking into his class to give him the announcement, and he was very surprised, and his students played a great role in that event. So we're very proud of Dr. Fuhrer. I want to mention a bit of legislation that happened last year in Jeff City that's very important, and it really is having an impact on our physicians that teach our medical students. So last year, the legislation passed a bill that allows for preceptors to file for a tax credit. And the preceptors are physicians that are not paid faculty, but who devote time and energy to train our medical students at our partner institutions. Examples would be in Springfield and at our rural sites where our medical students rotate around the state. So this is a really welcome program that rewards these important physicians as educators. So I'm happy to say that more than 50 of our faculty members have applied to take advantage of this important program for the first year it goes into effect. And here in these pictures, there is Dr. Kelly Dougherty. Now, she testified in Jeff City when she was a medical student on her view on this legislation, and she is now in St. Louis as a family medicine resident. And then on the right is a group picture of a number of our physician preceptors, and these are physicians, and they also testified in Jeff City in support of the legislation. So very briefly, a couple points about Next Gen. In March, we had the inaugural scientific program highlighting Next Gen research from around the state, and this was called Pathways 2024. So scientists from all University of Missouri campuses participated, and the executive director, Dave Arnold, and his team did an outstanding job in organizing this new an important annual scientific conference. It highlights the ongoing precision health research within the University of Missouri system. And we had nearly 200 system researchers in attendance and 98 posters and 10 faculty speakers. And in order to continue this trajectory of precision health research and being a leader in that area, we need to recruit the next generation of scientists. And two of these young scientists are pictured here, Dr. Catherine Moss and Dr. Curtis Nutter. They will both join our neuroscience team in the Roy Blunt Next Gen Precision Health building. And I think Catherine has already joined, and Curtis comes this summer. So Dr. Moss was recruited from Johns Hopkins University through the Mizzou Forward process, and she studies a neurologic disorder called Charcot-Marie-Tooth, which is a hereditary disorder of the peripheral nerves. She's dedicated her scientific career to study this condition because she has it. And she is really committed to finding, understanding the pathophysiology and finding treatment for Charcot-Marie-Tooth. Dr. Curtis Nutter will very soon be joining us from the University of Florida, and he has devoted his career to studying another inherited disease called myotonic dystrophy. It's the most common muscular dystrophy that causes disabling weakness, and he is supported by a Muscular Dystrophy Association grant that he'll be bringing to MU. And finally, a couple MU healthcare updates. Last week, as Curator Williams alluded to, the Health Affairs Committee were able to tour the new Children's Hospital and Birthing Center. And I know those that were on the tour were very impressed. Every time I walk through this incredible space, I continue to be impressed. And it always fills me with pride that the University of Missouri, thanks to the curators, President Choi, have invested in this state-of-the-art healthcare facility to care for children and women in Missouri. So we already have patients on 2 floors in this beautiful new building, and the other floors are going to be opening in the next 2 months. Last week, the main entrance and the lobby were officially opened as well, and we're looking forward to seeing many of you at the grand opening festivities in about a month. And finally, just a few words on MU healthcare finances year to date. Ryan Rapp already alluded to some of this in his finance report. So here's at the HAC meeting at the Health Affairs Committee last week, we presented this in significant detail and in a number of tables, and so I thought I would just summarize the highlights from that Health Affairs Committee report. So we now are reporting MU Healthcare and Cap Region Medical Center finances in an integrated fashion. And I am pleased to say that Cap Region Medical Center was nearly at break even for the month of February, and this actually is way ahead of schedule. Because our healthcare system continues to be extremely busy, our gross revenue is ahead of budget. And our operating gains through February was $15 million, and this was on a budget of $35 million. And the reasons we continue to be behind on budget are similar to what I reported previously and what Mr. Rapp reported as some national headwinds, and they fall into basically 3 big buckets: supplies and pharmacy costs, salaries and benefits, and payments and delays from insurers. So I can assure the curators that we have a plan to address these 3 big issues, and that this plan will affect not only the current budget of FY24, but will also, and more importantly, affect next year's FY25 budget. And I'm happy to take any questions.
I'd just like to say, Dr. Barron, that in the Health Affairs Committee meeting last week, there was much detail talked about. And I know you've got a lot of challenges, but especially with Cap Region, you're turning that around, and your team is doing your leadership team's doing a lot of good work, and I want to commend you for that. And the one thing, you have some important contract negotiations coming up that are vital to the health of the system. And the healthcare committee had some suggestions, from some of our folks, and we stand behind you in negotiating with a lot of determination to get it right for for your healthcare system.
Well, thank you so much, Curator Holloway. It was a great discussion, and the advice that you all gave us was excellent advice that we're going to use.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Barron. Are there any questions? Hearing none, Curator Winokur, that ends the report of the Healthcare Committee.
Great, and I just want to poll, I did this side of the room, the board, so we stay on schedule. Are you all good if we just keep going? Okay, great. Chancellor Degani, you are up. We will now hear regarding highlights from Missouri S&T. I turn it over to you.
Wait a minute, hold on just a minute. He told me yesterday his report was going to take about 2 hours. Maybe we should have a break before.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to highlight the university. But before we move on, I'd like to call on our Chief Roberts, to highlight an honor, a person who saved a life. Chief Roberts.
Hey, good morning. This is one of the really special things that we get to do in law enforcement, is to honoring people on our campus that take the initiative to save someone's life. It's probably the most important thing in the world to keep our life safe and to honor these individuals. So just to go over the event, on January 16th at the Gail Bowman Arena, we had a referee training going on. And during the referee training, there were several students there, and including some acting as basketball players while others refereed them. And during that training, an individual took a three-point shot and then collapsed. Fortunately, we had people that were trained in responding to that type of a situation, and Lucas Stone, who was a student employee, responded to the individual along with some other students, and determined that he wasn't breathing, and immediately started CPR on the student who had collapsed. Lucas also then asked other students to go get the defibrillator that was in the building, and they ran upstairs to where the defibrillator was located. And also upstairs was the men's basketball team, the varsity basketball team, and the head trainer, Lance Ringhausen, was up there with that team. He obviously recognized that somebody was grabbing the defibrillator, and he followed them downstairs, and with Lucas, Lance applied the AED to the student victim, and they recommended a shock. And so they administered a shock. CPR was continued by these two individuals. A second shock was administered by these individuals, which tells you the gravity of the situation. By that time, EMS had showed up, administered a third shock, and then transported the student to the Phelps County Hospital, where the continued life-saving support was rendered, and ultimately was transferred to a hospital. So with that, I would like to bring up one of the two lifesavers, Lance Ringhausen. Lucas Stone is a member of our student design team also, and is out visiting a plant today, like an S&T student would be. But Lance Ringhausen is fortunate where he's here, and I would like to present an award to him. So if you would step up. So in addition, I would like to point out that we have a special guest with us today. Jack Lackman, who was the victim of that incident, was asked if he wanted to attend, and he was very excited about attending. And so, Jack, if you'd like to come up and just say he's here. This is actually the award. Jack's the award.
So can you ask his mother to come up as well? Jack's mother? Please come on up.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you all very much. So now my 2 hours starts, so I'll highlight my presentation. So I wanted to highlight the North Star goals and how we plan to achieve them. First, you remember that our goals were established 5 years ago or so, 4.5 years ago. We wanted to achieve the Carnegie Foundation R1 University. We want to establish national recognition, and we want to increase our enrollment to 12,000. So let's see. So Provost Potts just highlighted our strategic plan. What I wanted to show is the fact that we had 3 major events happen, and that's why we decided to actually do our strategic plan wholesale rather than upgrading what was in play to begin with. And the 3 events, number 1 was COVID. Number 2 was the introduction of our North Star goals, because our executive leaders decided that we needed to have a sense of direction, and therefore the North Star goals. And then number 3 was the infusion of the Comer funding into the university. So based on those 3, we decided to actually move forward with a wholesale strategic plan. And thanks to no small measure to Dr. Wayne Jones, who has been helping develop the plan. And I would like to highlight that it is a plan in the making, like every strategic plan should be. The 2 important elements of this slide is the fact that there is a strategy and execution. And you notice there is a strategy accountable person and action accountable person. So every action of the strategic plan is going to be monitored. There are metrics, milestones, timelines for us to achieve them, and we are very excited about those. So let me move on to the research highlights. As President Choi and Dr. Kayat mentioned, we are doing very well with our research awards. This highlights the growth of about 180%. You know this from 2019 to 2020, where we were around 30 million to now about 61 million. And that is going to reflect in the data that President Choi highlighted as the expenditure later on as we move down the road. This is, in fact, more significant when you normalize it to the number of our tenure and tenure track faculty. So essentially, per faculty member who's conducting research, we went from around 100,000 to 200,000 per faculty researcher. Our areas of future research, I mentioned the manufacturing, and that is the protoplex. And then next is going to be bioplex. Then there is the critical minerals that we are highly focused on, and I'll say a few words on that. And then in the area of materials, again, is hypersonic materials, high temperature materials, and I will highlight that as well. So you'll know what is the sense of future for us when it comes to solution-inspired research. That is the distinguishing factor for our universities, where we do some hypothesis-driven research, but most of our research is applied solution-inspired research, and that's what Kamal highlighted. Our collaboration with industry is paramount for the work that we do. In the area of biothematic research, there is a lot going on at the university. You don't really mainly. Are we okay? Yeah, we're good. Okay, so the university is known. Our university is known for physical sciences and engineering research, and that has been what we've been doing. But keep in mind that about half of the national funding in the area of competitive research, peer-reviewed proposal development research, is in the Department of Health and Human Services, DHHSs, and that is where NIH resides as well. So I put this slide in for you to see the bandwidth of research that's going on at the intersection of engineering and medicine. And that is the area of growth for us for many reasons. This slide shows that our research from 2019 to today, in a 5-year period, it has gone up 15-fold in the area of life sciences. And that gives the importance of us growing that area. I spent many years at Johns Hopkins, and my takeaway from those years was that medicine is hugely under-engineered. And I think engineering and science can contribute to the delivery of medicine. And that's why we are so excited about our opportunity of engineers to physicians, and with Dr. Braun that we are in conversations to have that escalator to medical school for our engineering students. Again, 15-fold increase. What do we need to do about that? The other huge impact of this field is that the trend in male-female student in biological sciences is exactly the opposite of that trend in engineering and physical sciences. So by growing this area, we are going to help our diversity of gender in the university as well. So let me also highlight that in that domain, thanks to the curator's approval, we have 3 new programs: BS in Biomedical Engineering, PhD in Bioengineering, and PhD in Biological Sciences. So these are the areas that are not readily visible to a visitor, but the programmatic growth, the research growth is ongoing in these areas. And that's why we are very much hopeful that our next groundbreaking event will be in the area in the Bioplex building, which is going to be the last major building in our arrival district. So we are very much hopeful in this domain of $120 million project, and of course all the programs that come into play to enhance the university in another direction. I mentioned hypersonic materials. We have a 20-year experience in this field. A lot of ongoing projects. We partner with Clemson University, GE Aviation, NASA, and many other places. And our growth is in this area is also remarkable. I will highlight another major grant that we have received in the area of hypersonic. The question is, how do you raise the temperature of a material to 3,000 degrees C? How do you handle a bulk of material that's sitting at 3,000 degrees C? What do you use to pick it up? To put it under the microscope, to look at it. So a lot is happening in the area of hypersonic, and as I mentioned, I'll highlight that with you. We are very hopeful for the very first ever ERC in the University of Missouri system. That is Engineering Research Center, the highest recognition of the National Science Foundation. We were chosen amongst 200 proposals and the final 10. So there was a visit by the NSF team on campus earlier this year, and in fact it was in December, and we are now waiting for their decision. So if this does happen, it will be the first engineering research center, National Science Foundation Engineering Research Center at any university in the University of Missouri system. I also would like to highlight our giant proposal. You all are aware that the Department of Commerce announced earlier, in fact, sometimes last year, for regional tech hubs. Out of 400 plus applications, 30 were chosen, and each were granted the $500,000 phase 1 of the proposal to develop phase 2 proposals, which we developed and submitted on the last day of the February. In fact, Dr. Hayat and I were on Capitol Hill on Monday and Tuesday campaigning for this. Now, the impact of this will be felt by 14 counties in southeast Missouri. It is $70 million opportunity for the university, and it is really the address to the answer to the question of critical minerals, which is more and more a national security issue. I remind everybody that this university was established based on mining, Missouri School of Mine and Metallurgy, and we have every program needed in order to go from the ore to the application-ready material in the area of critical minerals. Out of 50 critical minerals that have been designated, some 28, 29 of them exist in the state of Missouri. And we must be able to respond to the growing need in this critical area of importance. I do want to say that, for example, our programs of geological sciences, geological engineering, explosives engineering, mining engineering, extraction metallurgy, chemistry, chemical engineering, all of those disciplines are needed, and we have them right here to be able to respond to the national need in the area of critical minerals. I mentioned hypersonic. I also like to highlight that we just received the very first MURI grant from the Department of Defense. That's a multi-university research initiative. That is the first in the University of Missouri system as well. We've never had a MURI, and Dr. Bill Fahrenholz is the PI, and we collaborate with 34 other universities in the area, and that's a $7.5 million. More than the money, it's really, really prestigious, and the critical material question will be answered there. You were already introduced earlier by President Choi to Professor Roy Moe.
I got a quick
I'm
question.
sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I think I didn't speak well enough into the mic. Can you share what other universities are part of that grant? Or is that not public?
On the MURI, it is, I think it's University of California, Davis, and, Penn State. Penn State is one, and Duke.
Okay.
And Duke are.
Just curious. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's the MURI part. And Professor Roy Bowe, who was here, I think he left. He was the recipient of a National Science Foundation Career Award to address the need on the transition of power, right? So there is the generation, there is the transition, and then there is the distribution. So as you can imagine, as the need for the electrical power grows, all the electrical devices, automobiles, cars, and everything else, the need for upgrading the grid is also important, and that is what this proposal is all about. I mentioned R1 University, or Dr. Hayat mentioned R1 University. So we are really, really thrilled with this designation. And so in the public university arena, there are 2 universities in the state of Missouri now that are designated by Carnegie Foundation as R1. Of course, there is University of Missouri in Columbia, and then now it's us here in Rolla. It is important for us to have this designation. We'll be able to attract high-quality faculty, high-quality students, researchers. Funding organizations look to R1 universities for prestigious grants, and so on and so forth. And it is bound to impact our national reputation, of course, as that designation. So I want to highlight our ranking recognitions. President Choi mentioned one of them. Everybody has seen the New York Times front page article where we were ranked as top 10. They called it the ranking that really matters. and that is the return on investment, not only on financial investment, but also time. So you notice the first top 10 group are, you graduate from these universities, you're set for life, starting salary, mid-career salary, and all of that. The second top 10 says, you graduate from these universities, you're set for life, starting salary, midlife salary, mid-career salary, and you don't have to pay an arm and a leg to attend them. And then the third one says salaries are going to be comparable, you don't pay an arm and a leg, and you don't have to be a 4.0 to get admitted into the university. And frankly, we are really, really proud of that last one because we take a smart, average Missouri kids and they graduate from here with salaries that are commensurate with the other two groups that you see. Just look at the neighborhood on the middle column, for example, Yale University, Harvard. We are above Caltech, University of Florida. So this is a good neighborhood to be recognized with. Now, of course, you know there is New York Times and there is Wall Street Journal. If you are to the left of the center, you read New York Times. If you're to the right of the center, is Wall Street Journal. And so we were thrilled that Wall Street Journal followed up with the same ranking, and they ranked us number 7 in that same category on return on investment. Again, look at the neighborhood: Harvard, Stanford, Missouri S&T, Claremont College, Yale University, and Boston College. So we are very much hopeful to keep this ranking. And here are some additional recognitions at the national level. So we are proud of where we are fit in the national landscape as far as the ranking goes. Now, all of that has resulted into an incredible recruitment effort here on campus, placement of our graduates, record number of companies that come to campus and recruit our students. And in fact, every one of those numbers that you see, both for spring and for fall, are record numbers, are employers that were on campus, and their record to last year, and last year was record to the previous year as well. And they hire our graduates, the companies hire our graduates at the highest level of a starting salary of any university in the state of Missouri, including Washington University. So the average starting salary for our undergraduates is $74,000, master's is $91,000, and PhDs is about $100K. And when you compare that with the numbers below, so on the average, our graduates have a debt of about $28,000, which is about a third of their first year compensation. And conceivably, everybody could pay off their debt in 1 year. And that's why it gives such a high ROI and therefore the rankings that you saw. I'd like to compare our tuition, which is $13,000, to Wash U's tuition, which is 5 times as much, and yet our starting salary is about $8,000 higher than their starting salary. These are numbers that we write home about on a regular basis. As far as the companies that hire our graduates, just a quick list: Honeywell, Intel, Microsoft, Naval Nuclear Laboratory. They really look for engineers who know what they are doing. So this is a proud list as well for us. Our students regularly achieve recognitions, but this particular one, where our mechanical and aerospace engineering students designed a satellite that was launched on March 4th on board the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. And you see the celebration that happened there. The satellite is an experimental design that will steer. It was a device that will steer satellites. It's a plasma-induced steering mechanism that is going to be tested actually on a satellite. So that was a proud moment for our mechanical and aerospace engineering students. Again, on the left, you see that our technology students routinely receive national awards from their respective organizations. And on the right is our National Society of Black Engineers. Our local chapter was recognized as the chapter of the year, second year in the row. Now that's really terrific. The first time was we were thrilled, and then the second time it's in a row, 2 years in a row. So that was a high recognition for us. Some of our faculty recognitions, they were recognized by their respective organizations as fellows of their organizations. And Dr. Daryl Beatner of Electrical Engineering, Dr. Sajal Das of Computer Science, Christy Lok named the president-elect of the American Society of Engineering Education. That's a national high-level recognition. And Dr. Joseph Smith of our chemical engineering is the president-elect for American Institute of Chemical Engineers. High-level recognitions.
Are any of them here?
Sorry, they're not here. No, they're not. I don't think they're here. No. No, they didn't want to be embarrassed, so. Our enrollment growth, President Choi showed the overall enrollment for the university. I'd like to highlight that the peak enrollment for our campus was in 2014. And then we had a precipitous decline in our enrollment until 2021 that we begin to see the bottom of the trough, and now we are growing. I think this is where we want to go, but notice that our applications are high, our acceptance are high, and then our deposits are about a third or a fourth of our applications and our admits. So we have work to do in our enrollment, and that's why new programs, new areas of growth, particularly in the area of biological sciences and biothematic activities, is going to significantly enhance our enrollment. Graduate enrollment is a problem. One issue that we've had is really the visa situation across the world. Our lion's share of our graduate students are international students, and a time to visa interview from the day that the students apply for visas until they get a date for their interview, it can be as long as 2 years. 1 year, 300 days in parts of the world. And of course, that has caused all kinds of issues for our graduate enrollment. We do a lot for our enrollment enhancement. David Spivey is here, was recognized earlier. Thank you, David, for everything that you do. Our activities include faculty and department chairs engagement. That's new for us at a much more level of engagement. Our own successful students are working with their own high schools to increase enrollment. We have a group called the Army of Champions, and they are our successful seniors and juniors who go to their own high schools and talk about their experience here at Rolla. We have expanded our St. Louis operation, mainly in the graduate education program. Organizational realignment, frankly, we have enhanced and established our Office of Enrollment. So a lot of work is going on. For example, one of the things that we had not done here, but in the last year and a half, I would say, Steve, David, is the work on the juniors and sophomores about when they graduate, where are they going to go to work. That is a major activity that's ongoing now that's new to our campus. Let me talk about the Comer highlight. Of course, you know the 3 mandates that we designate as Comer mandate. is Elevate Missouri S&T. And you've seen all of those programs in Elevating Missouri S&T, endowed professors, new centers of excellence, Vanguard undergraduate scholarships, PhD students, a whole new Comer College of Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Economic Development. I am proud to introduce soon the new dean for the Comer College. And then the STEM outreach, we have thousands of kids come to our campus through various programs, grade school, middle school, high school, and all of those really introductions of what does an engineer do? What does a scientist do? Many kids don't even know if they get a degree in engineering, what are they expected to do? What would they do? What is their life like? So we are doing a lot in those areas. Teacher education, mainly a STEM teacher education. They are physics and chemistry teachers in the state of Missouri that haven't been in a physics lab for a decade. And we are trying to help that situation as well. Missouri Protoplex, we've talked about that, and I will highlight that in a bit. But I'd like to introduce Dr. James Sterling, who's, I think, is Jim here? Jim, would you stand up, please, and be recognized? Thank you for coming here. So, James is a mechanical engineer, a graduate of Texas A&M, and then master's and PhD at Caltech, and we were able to hire Jim from Keck Graduate Institute, and his starting date is going to be this summer, but he's been fully engaged with us and participates in our leadership team conversations via Zoom, but comes to campus from time to time, so thank you, Jim. We are excited about the direction of the Comer College and all the new programs at the intersection of engineering and business. Okay, so the same way that we are working in the areas, the confluence areas of engineering and medicine, we are growing our confluence area of engineering and business. Many wonderful programs. Jim has developed a thinking about plan, which hopefully will convert to a think about plan, and we are going to energize it. Comer Institute Foundation Board is leaning towards supporting it as well. We have private donors that are supporting it as well. So we are excited about the Comer College. On the outreach program, I mentioned the outreach to schools, our summer camps, which are well-renowned. We had about 1,300 students last summer here on campus, and that is compared to 750 the year before. We have 29 summer camps, and summer camps are critical because the highest rate of return from any student body that visits the campus to come to S&T or to go to any other STEM universities is from the summer campers who come here. So if you know people, if you have children, grandchildren, I highly, highly recommend the summer camps for the students. As far as our endowment goes, this is a little bit of confusing chart. 2019-2020, our total endowment was about $200 million. And then the Comer infusion came in, and as you know, that was $300 million. We took $100 million and put it aside for our capital projects, and we took the $200 million and invested in long-term investment. That $200 million in long-term investment is now $325 million. And the $100 million that we put aside for capital projects, we've only spent $40 million of it. So the Comer in total, after the expenditures, everything that you heard about the Central Green, the capital project expansions and everything else, it was 300 million to begin with. Put together now is close to 400 million, despite the fact that we spent some on the capital projects. That's what this slide is saying, essentially. So total put together with the third element of our endowment, which is our alumni foundation endowment, we are at a total of $560 million. Not bad for a school in South Central Missouri, which we started with about 200 million, and now we are close to $600 million of endowment. So let me move on the capital projects. You saw the Innovation Lab, and the Welcome Center is next to come online. And then the Protoplex, which you haven't seen this time, is well on its way to become a physical reality for the campus. Innovation Lab, you saw it, it's 50,000 square foot. And the whole concept is to create an environment for collision of ideas. We want our students to come together, contribute to a vision, work with one another. The important element of the Innovation Lab is that our design centers are discipline specific. The Innovation Lab isn't. The Innovation Lab is intended to bring all disciplines together. There is no single discipline anything anymore. And our students need to learn to transcend their own discipline boundaries if they are to become contributing members of any team. And that's what the Innovation Lab is all about. We are very proud, very hopeful, very excited about the future in enrollment, in research, in innovation, in entrepreneurship, and everything else that this facility will bring to us. So our Welcome Center is 32,000 square foot, and it'll come online in November of next year. We really don't have anywhere for our prospective students and their parents to go to when they come to campus. We have offices all over the place. But the Welcome Center is going to be home for our enrollment management people, and of course, a wonderful piece to the Arrival District as well. So as I said, this is going to be online, so hopefully next time you are here on campus next year, you will see this structure in existence, and then the year after that, we will hold this meeting there, maybe. I wanted to highlight the Protoplex. We are already having a major problem with our Protoplex, and that's the fact that we are running out of space. The demand for it has been so high that, the intention was from a small companies, small to medium-sized manufacturing companies, but now big companies are coming to our campus, and they want to be a part of this, Rick Bellow, I don't know if Rick is in the audience or not, but Rick has done a masterful job in attracting companies. In fact, some of the companies that you see on the bottom list there, Boeing and Caterpillar, are going to have resident engineers come and live in Rolla, and they will have offices in the Protoplex to work with our researchers and graduate students. But the focus of the Protoplex is home to the Manufacture Missouri ecosystem. The whole concept, this map shows every red dot on this map is a small manufacturing company in the state of Missouri. These are the companies that need research and development, but don't have the bandwidth to have their own. And we want to be their R&D arm. They have a question, materials, process, design, fabrication technologies. They can come to us here. A great advantage of this approach for us is that we will be the node of knowledge for all of these companies, not only in and of itself for what we do here, but we will develop a RAD, which is Research Asset Database, knowing what technology, what capabilities, what knowledge base each one of these companies have, and we will share that with the constituency of the manufactured Missouri ecosystem. So when we are done at the steady state, if some manufacturing company in northeast part of the state needs a spin former for shape memory alloys, and we don't have it, we will know who has it, who is the expert, and we will help them to get there. So we will become a node of knowledge for all these companies that need help to develop their next line of product. A lot of these companies are small manufacturers that they keep doing what they have been doing for decades, if you will. But they need to grow their next generation of products if they are to remain competitive. One last note on this, small companies are hugely important to big companies because they are a part of their supply chain. And as a result, when we help the small companies, big companies, Boeing and Honeywell and Emerson and places like that, like the concept. And that's why they're coming here to help us as well. One of the things that I'll always highlight is that this is a depiction of the health of the economy of a region in the state of Missouri. Each one of these bubbles highlights where each region falls based on two factors, the rate of job growth and the family of four income. This is the state of Missouri's map. And so you can see St. Louis and Kansas City, they're doing very well. Thank you very much. And us, we are closest to the origin. And the whole concept of economic growth, innovation, entrepreneurship is to help our region, and therefore the tech hub that I mentioned, 14 counties in southeastern Missouri will see a $34 billion impact in a 10-year period if we are successful in bringing proposals like that in here. I have to say that this university for 150 years has really been a crown jewel of engineering education in the state of Missouri. But we have not spilled ourselves over into the community. And our efforts now is to help that dimension of the university as well. We are small enough, our community is small enough that we are the community and the community is us. And we work very well with the city, with the county, with our environment. And we like to continue that and hopefully be impactful for the university. And with that, I stand ready to answer any question you may have. And thank you all very much for your time.
Very good. Questions for Chancellor Degani or comments?
I have a comment. Mo, from St. Louis, been on the board for a year now. S&T is just so impressive. I'm so glad I'm here. Your faculty, your leadership, your vision and what you've accomplished is just incredible. I think what strikes me most with everything you do and have done, the humility that is in this room by some of the brightest people, brightest students, your humbleness is just incredible. Striving for a national reputation, I think you already have it. I mean, you're well known in St. Louis. I know St. Louis would be shocked, but I'd trade Washington U engineering for S&T any day, and you guys are just great. I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Others? I'm sorry, there, Bob Fry. Gary Fry.
I was talking to Tony Caruso yesterday afternoon, and of course, we're all in favor of new businesses coming to Missouri. Is Tony here? He was earlier.
Yeah.
He says the bottleneck to getting new companies to come to Missouri is the power grid.
Yes.
Would you care to comment on that?
Well, and I don't believe it's only Missouri. Frankly, it's the power grid is a major consideration now because the need for power because of all the electronics and use of electricity has gone up order magnitude is putting a lot of stress on the power grid. And that's why our faculty won the NSF Career Award for that. I know for a fact, as a part of, I spent a lot of years at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and it was a national security consideration. There was a major group at Livermore that was looking into the transmission of power and where they were predicting where the needs were going to be. It is one of the national priorities, and I believe with the focus on it, we're going to be able to address it. But it's not only Missouri. When I was in California, California was a big issue. The power, the need has grown. Generation can grow, but the transmission of power is a big issue.
So I guess my question really is there anything that the state of Missouri can do to get a leg up on other Midwestern states that have the same problem?
Yeah, I wish Dr. Bo was here, but any support for activities such as Dr. Bo's, we've got other faculty members in electrical engineering that can be contributing to it. We need a center of excellence on power transmission. That's what we need. We need to have, frankly, if we could, we've got our pillars identified, but if we could, we would establish a cluster hiring of expert in power transmission and establish a center of excellence. I mean, between us and other campuses, the University of Missouri system, we could certainly establish. We have joint centers, transportation centers. We recognize that was a big issue between us and Mizzou. We have excellent centers of transportation. This is transportation of electrons. So we really need to do that, President Choi.
So Curator Fry, one way to solve that issue is just remove the need for transmission and develop small modular nuclear research reactors, which can be located, and I know that, was that what you, exactly yes, right. And S&T and Mizzou, we have world-class experts on small modular reactors, and so that'd be a big push.
Exactly, but the current state, no nuclear reactor is going to be approved for electricity. That's my understanding.
Right.
Something else.
Other comments or questions? Curator Williams, did you have something? No, okay. Thank you. That was an outstanding presentation. I think you've heard from each of us in the last 24 hours how much we've enjoyed being here. You continue to be amazed by the progress and the renaissance of your campus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate it.
Good job.
Well done. Curator Blitz, I now turn it over to you for the Mizzou Intercollegiate Athletics Special Committee meeting.
Good morning, everyone. The Intercollegiate Athletics Committee has one action item, and it relates to the improvements at the Memorial Stadium in Columbia. What I'd like to do is read parts of the resolution authorizing this that the board will vote on, and then recommend it, have a committee vote which would recommend the resolution of the Memorial Stadium improvements to the board. Some of the resolution is too long to read, but so I'm just going to read parts of it, some of the highlights of it, so you can understand what this means to the university. Whereas MU athletics is an integral part of the University of Missouri and plays a critical and visible role in the university's overall reputation, image, and brand. And whereas MU athletics and its success galvanizes Missourians in support of the university, its mission, and its athletics programs, further enhancing in favor of the university and public higher education. Whereas the Memorial Stadium, which opened in 1926, currently has a seating capacity for 61,620 fans and needs upgrades to improve the fan experience and increase capacity to be competitive in the SEC. And whereas the completion of the Memorial Stadium programming and planning study by DLR provides a $250 million project that offers a fan experience commensurate with the high standards of the SEC while respecting the tradition and history of Memorial Stadium and the MU campus. Whereas construction and operation of an improved Memorial Stadium will support the economic development efforts of the university, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Curators does hereby adopt, direct, and authorize the following actions taken by MU. Number one, to engage DLR Group as the architect for Memorial Stadium Improvement Project for a total fee of $15,836,505. The fee includes design, necessary pre-construction services for the project. And number two, issue the necessary solicitations to engage a construction manager at risk to assist with pre-construction services, cost estimating, schedule, identify long-time lead items, and procurement strategies, value engineering, and constructability. That is the resolution. And is there any questions from the board? Seeing no questions, I would may I have a motion from the committee and a second for recommending this resolution to the board.
I'll move to pass the resolution.
I'll second that.
Cindy, you want to call the roll on that?
Curator Blitz,
Yes.
Curator Graves,
Yes.
Curator Lehman,
Yes.
Curator Winokur.
Yes.
Okay. All committee votes in favor.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we have a motion, second, and approved by the subcommittee for the resolution regarding the improvements to Memorial Stadium. I refer to you to proceed with it for a vote of the
Thank you.
full committee.
Thank you, Curator Blitz. A motion has been made. Do I have a second from the board?
So moved.
Thank you, Curator Williams. We have a motion second to approve the Memorial Stadium project resolution as presented today. Any last comments before we go to a roll call vote?
Yeah, I just want to say, the architects mentioned the other day that October of 2026 will be the 100th anniversary of Memorial Stadium. And I think this would be a very exciting way to kick off that with a completed project by October of 2026.
Excellent point. Anyone else?
Yeah, that's, we're shooting for it for the 2026 football season, yes.
Curator Holloway?
I'd like to say that this has been an initiative by the board ever since I've been on the board, for it's about 2.5 years. And I appreciate all the work done, especially by the committee. That's the last few months. And they've done, from what we've seen, great work. And I commend you for all that, to the committee, and fully support the idea to getting this building that was built in 1926.
Correct.
You know, a little up to snuff, so to say.
One way to say it.
All right.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Cindy, could you please call the roll for this vote?
Curator Blitz,
Yes.
Curator Burnsick. Yes. Curator Fry,
Yes.
Curator Graves,
Yes.
Curator Holloway,
Yes.
Curator Lehman,
Yes.
Curator Sinkfield,
Yes.
Curator Winokur,
Yes.
Curator Williams.
Yes.
You have all votes in favor.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Congratulations, Curator Blitz and your team. Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask if there are any items for the good and welfare of the board. I want to acknowledge, do you have something, Curator Holloway? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Curator Fry.
We have Coach Drinkwitz here. Would you care to have him address the group about his feelings, how this might help his program?
Well, I
We'll cover that in the press conference.
Okay.
I think we'll stick with our plan unless somebody has a different thought. I think we'll move ahead that way. Okay, anything for the good and welfare of the board, but thank you, Curator Fry. Okay, want to acknowledge, we had great academics here at S&T lined up to give a presentation on artificial intelligence, and we ran a little long on time, so we will figure out another opportunity, whether it's a May or June meeting, to come back in here. We know they prepared, we value that, and please extend our apologies, if you will, Chancellor Degani, to them. Let me make one final comment, then we'll get to our last item of business. These meetings don't happen in a vacuum. We have many partners who help host and support the board. I want to thank the Chancellor Degani's office, Jill Tanner and Lynette Epstein, S&T's facilities and catering departments, MVP Productions, Susan Conyers, Mike Bowles, Dustin Rogan, Eric Himman, Marketing Communications, John Danker, Kelly Weeman, Zach Gorley, Christian Basie, and Jody Mattori, S&T Police Chief Robertson team, S&T IT Department, Alan Wilkins, the the System Board Office, Cindy Harmon, Valerie Slayton, and Phyllis Hawk, and our system administrators who serve as liaisons to our boards and committees, and of course to our presenters today. Thank you to each of you for elevating our meetings. Greatly appreciated. Our next item of business is to approve a resolution to move into executive session this afternoon. May I have a motion and a second for the board to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City, please call the roll of the board.
Curator Blitz?
Yes.
Curator Burnsick? Yes. Curator Fry? Yes. Curator Graves? Yes. Curator Holloway?
Yes.
Curator Lehman? Yes. Sinkfield? Yes. Curator Sinkfield? Yes. Curator Winokur?
Yes.
Curator Williams?
Yes.
All right, all votes in favor.
Thank you. Motion carries. This concludes the public portion of the board meeting today. The board thanks everyone for their time and reports. President Choi and I, along with Curator Blitz, Coach Drinkwitz, and Interim Athletic Director Marcy Gerton, as well as our design firm, DLR, will be available for a press conference in about 15 or 20 minutes in the Turner Carver Room. For those of you who have joined via live stream, you can join us via live stream for the press conference as well. Please go to umsystem.edu to access the link. Invited guests, lunch is available next door until 1:15. The board will plan to convene at 1:15 in the silver and gold room. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate Chancellor Degani. A great day at S&T.